Honk.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. What's going on, everyone? Welcome, Arvanauts. Welcome all to a Tuesday stream. It is June 18th, 2024, also known as the day after the Celtics won their 18th championship, making them once again the greatest NBA franchise of all time. But in addition to that, it's not just about basketball today. It's not really at all about basketball. I just thought I would bring that up because it's been a fun couple years to be a basketball fan. But beyond that, of course, we are here for something much more important, and that is for the big Atthis Arts cover reveal. We have not one, not two, but multiple books that we are going to be revealing covers for today. We are going to be doing all of this stuff. I am super excited about it. It's going to be really cool, and I cannot wait as well, just on a personal level, to reveal the cover of Heretic, which is my book. I'm super excited about that. It's going to be a good time. Before we get to any of that, though, a couple of reminders about ways to support us here on the channel. For those of you who are coming for the event who are not familiar with this channel and have been with us before, I want to welcome everybody to that and welcome you all to this lovely experience. So let me just talk about a couple of things that are going on. If you haven't already done so, following the channel, as I noticed a couple of folks did today, is always appreciated. That is always a good thing, and you can, in doing that, will get notifications about when the channel goes live. We do a lot of stuff on this channel relating to video games and tabletop games, but also a lot of story-based stuff. We've done a number of things with authors like Carlos Hernandez and Claire Cooney and Amal Elmatar and Kat Rambo and many things like that. And, of course, many things relating to Atthis Arts authors as well. So if you want in on all of that cool stuff, you should definitely stop by again, and you can do that by following the channel. You can also as well check out our YouTube, and if you're watching over on my YouTube channel, welcome. That's !ArvTube if you're on the Twitch chat, and you can get a link to which you can go over and subscribe there. That is free to do, but it definitely helps us there, and we also broadcast live on Twitch most of the time when we are, broadcast live on YouTube when we are broadcasting on Twitch. Again, that's !ArvTube. Discord is !ArvCord. You can hang out with us in our Discord channel in between streams if you like. Twitter is !ArvTweets. You can follow me whenever I broadcast on social media about various things. Also, my Blue Sky account is !ArvSky. Website for all that is arvaneleron.com. Financially, !Arvshop. That's the merchandise area where you can get swag related to the channel and also support what we do here on the channel. !Arvtreon is the Patreon that supports the channel and also supports our Patreon and various things in that regard, including giving you inspirations to help with our tabletop player games and things like that, if that is of interest to you. Hi, Shadowed, and everyone who has come in since I started speaking. So again, that is !Arvshop and !Arvtreon. And subscribing to us on the Twitch channel gives you those custom sub badges and emotes to use here, there, and everywhere across Twitch, and other things as well. So that is also very helpful and really helps us. Again, hey, Classicor, good to see you as well. On the publishing front, since that's kind of important for what we're doing today, Icarus is my graphic novel from the amazing Atthis Arts. You can check that out there. You can also check out Library. That is my Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library. That's my 5e adventure and sourcebook from Alligator Alley Entertainment, which is the thing that I wrote for originally the Gen Con. Hang on one second here as I respond to something quickly. Hang on, please. There we go. So Gen Con is where I did the library Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library Adventures, and that was then published by Alligator Alley Entertainment. That is also a best-selling thing. It is, I believe, a copper seller or possibly even a bronze seller over on, or no, a silver seller now, I think possibly over on DriveThruRPG. So you can check that out if you were interested with Library. And of course, Grayshade. That will be of particular interest, I think, to the crew today, because those books, of course, all came out from Atthis. Grayshade and Renegade, the first two books of my award-winning Grey Assassin trilogy, are out from Atthis Arts, and the final book in the trilogy, Heretic, will be out next month, and that's one of the things we're going to be looking at today is the cover reveal for that book, for Heretic. All of them, of course, edited by the amazing Emily Bell, so you'll be able to find that over there by checking out that Grayshade link. You'll also be able to find a place where you can pre-order the tabletop role-playing game of Gray Shade from Alligator Alley Entertainment, and Brandon O'Brien is the lead designer. That will be out late this year, so you can check all those things out. And I should mention that there will be an in-person reading event as well in Black Rock Books, which is in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and we'll be doing that release event next month, so stay tuned for that. That is going to be an exclusive place that you can actually get physical copies of the book a few days before the official release day in July, so you can check that out if you are interested. I would highly recommend stopping by if you're able to do that. Would love to see any or all of you who are in the southern Connecticut area to stop by there if you get a chance. So it's going to be a good time. Electrum bestseller. I couldn't remember what it was to Affect Life. I'm like, is it silver? Is it this? I'm like, what is it? So anyway, Electrum bestseller. So that's the BlackRock Books reading link I want to mention. But exclamation point Gray Shade will get you over to all those places where you can find out more about the Gray Assassin trilogy. And as always on this channel, exclamation point BLM, Black Lives Matter. Very important to affirm and assert the significance and importance of Black lives. Exclamation point Help Now is the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention. Important to reach out to others when you need help and reach out to others when they need help as well. And exclamation point Ukraine, UKRAINE, to help the people of Ukraine as they fight back against an illegal and illegitimate war with bravery and courage, and send the message we will do so for others in this situation in the future. Now, a couple of quick notes about scheduling here, and then we will get into the festivities. I do want to mention that at 4 p.m. Eastern today, I will be over on my sister channel, GOG Comms Twitch channel, playing more Black Geyser, Couriers of Darkness. There have been a lot of great shorts that Live Suing has done over the last bit of time, which has been really awesome and amazing and super cool. And a lot of them have come from that game. So if you have the opportunity to check it out, I would recommend stopping by twitch.tv/GogCom later on today if you want to see some good old school role play. That's going to be happening at 4 p.m. And then I will be back on Thursday with some Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as that game moves into its latter stages as we move into the home stretch of that game, which has been really, really cool. So that's what we got going on. It's going to be great. So it's between silver and gold. So if it was silver not too long ago, it became even better. Oh, okay. Well, then Electrum is even cool. See, I knew it was something like that. But it has actually sold really well, so we're grateful for that. All right. So with all of that said, I am going to unmute myself so I can let this guest know that we are ready to go. And then I am going to unmute her. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to reveal to you. Wait for it. Hold on a second. Let me get rid of the things that I promised I was going to get rid of, which includes that and that. Okay, here we go. And there we are. And the reveal is there. And you can see right now there is just a black screen to our right. You might think, like, why is that there? Because that, chat, is where the cover's going to go. The cover is going to go there in just a little bit. But it's my pleasure to welcome friend and amazing editor Emily Bell. Good to see you, Emily. How are you? How's things with you in the mean streets of Ferndale? How are you doing? How's life with you? And how are you feeling about our event today?
Well, things are excellent. Ferndale is going to be a little quiet today because I've got the window shut because it's, extraordinarily hot today. And also you made me think about like, what if okay, everyone knows Spinal Tap is my favorite movie, right? So what if those are all the covers? Like, how much more black could they be? And the answer is none. That's the reveal, that all the covers are just going to be, they're already there.
It's it's the most hardcore minimalist. I mean, like, that's right. Like,
but that's also not true, because we have some amazing artists and designers, some of whom I believe are with us now and will be joining us. So if you're into showing love in the chat for artists and designers and their work, I believe it will be seen, if not now or later. I think everyone's going to watch this at some point. So show those artists love, because we love them.
Oh man, it's true. And actually Peter Tikos has already said hi in chat. Hello, Peter. Now I'm going to be biased, right? And I'm going to say, like, all of these covers are amazing, but my cover's the most amazing. No, I'm just kidding. They're all incredible, but I am super excited. I've said this to Peter via email before, but let me say publicly, not exactly in person, but at least orally, let me say, that I could not be happier, Peter. Thank you for the extraordinary work on these covers. They just like not only is the cover for Heretic, as you will see in a little while, amazing, but it just you put them side by side, and I kind of geek out about this stuff. Where I'm like, it's a completed trilogy, and look at each cool cover, and like I had people look at them and just be like, family members who are just like, oh yeah, and it's like this is happening with Gray Shade, and then this is adding this extra effect with this, and like so that stuff is just like absolutely awesome. So I am very grateful that we were able to work with Peter. And by the way, we don't have any guarantees about this yet, but I think it's fair to say that at least in terms of some of the original art, you will see a little bit of that, and maybe some other art may be coming from that certain individual relating to the tabletop side of things. We will see. There may be more of that art down the line. But yeah, I admire so much good art in general, and especially good cover art. So it's super exciting. Do you have any thought, quickly, Emily, before we start getting into the actual reveals, do you have any thought about, I guess, the sort of approach? Because Atthis has been, over the last 6 months, had a very successful GoFundMe. Atthis has been noticed critically, obviously, over the last couple of years, and other examples of that. Do you see, and if the answer is no, that's fine, a connection between the art side of things
be truthful,
and the...
you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, no, I know. No, but I mean, I guess what I'm not trying to be too clever about the question. I guess I want to know about the art versus the art on the covers of these books, how that connects with your vision for Atthis as a press as a whole, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, and it connects a lot, in my opinion. I hear a lot from people, and I need people to understand when I've tried to start my hashtag support bold indies hashtag, because it's not just if you're indie, it's not just, there's a lot of, you can read all my musings on the internet about that. But my point is not to talk down any other type of art or publishing. That is not the point.
Right.
So I'm not saying anything negative. I'm not trying to get into traditional public, none of that. But I do hear, if you traditional publishing, we're traditional, but large traditional, big pub, wonderful. I'm pleased for all of it. But I do hear from a lot of those authors, we don't get a say in the cover. The cover is what is believed to best sell. Selling books is good. I certainly understand that. But, we do something different here. We really do believe in voice and art. And we do need to sell books. So if you're into that, like, buy some.
Yes, do buy those books.
So I'm not like trying to be like, no way, don't buy our books. We need to make the sales. But for us, the voice and the art always comes first. And it's my vision. If I have a vision, my vision is that someday, if we keep focusing on the voice and the art, and we hold to that we will make it.
Mm-hmm.
That you don't have to pick. You don't have to. I know I'm longer stream for me to get into publishing and drama, but you don't. I want to make the point, even if it's difficult for me to do it. I want to set the precedent. You don't have to pick. They can't tell us we have to pick, and we're not going to pick.
Right. We're
going to stay in this, and we're going to do it with the art. And art, that means, people say, well, no, it means quality. It means editing. It means review. We're critical. We're lovingly critical with each other in the best of ways. We learn, we make mistakes, but the voice and the art are the center of it. And so, we've had covers from new artists, people who never thought they'd be on a book cover. Some of them people like more than others, some of them, but they're all, every single cover we've had has come from someone's vision, someone's heart, someone's soul. We had some criticism for the cover for One Arm Shorter Than the Other, that it didn't look genre. Well, you know what? It was an Indian book, and we have, a British Indian artist, and it was authentic to that story. It was beautiful, and I guess, okay, maybe it doesn't look like what you see the genre as, but it's a genre book, so that's a genre cover, because I said so.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think there's a through line as well. I was just talking about this with someone earlier today, stuff that I really can't talk about at all too much. But I was talking with someone earlier today about the through line of storytelling and world building in a variety of different mediums, and about for me, the coherence of something, like, the cover, that everyone talks about, the idea that a cover codes in a certain way. Like, you see the cover and it means that there's a certain genre or subgenre that it fits to. And I think there's something to that. But I think it also codes thematically if it's done well, where you see it and you get a kind of an echo of what you'll understand, or what you'll come to realize about the book itself once you read it. And I think it's always neat to then read the book and then afterwards take a look back at the cover and be like, oh, that's cool. This thing kind of popped up as a result of it. And so thematically, it seems like, since everything is about, as you say, the voice and the art and what Atthis does, it makes sense that the visual art reflects that also.
Yeah.
So
And that's why you'll see the covers today are quite different from each other because they're for different stories and different backgrounds and different vibes, and I love all of them. But that's just really important to us, and I think that it's especially important. And all these issues are so complex. There's so much nuance, but sometimes there's also not. We're here talking about generated, content. I won't even call it art. We're talking about generated content or machine generated content, and there's a certain point where, and I don't want to get into the debate on how well machines write, but let's just say we have a book that's written as an amalgamation by a machine, and it hits all the right notes. It has the right arc and does the right plot points, and the cover is exactly the most saleable, I think that's the word, cover that exists. But okay, we lose the human in that, and humans sometimes have a quirky cover, and humans sometimes have a little bit different arc, or they come from a different culture where storytelling has been different and has not been is colonialized. And
right.
so that doesn't mean lesser, it means more individual, more authentic, to have a story that came, and a piece of artwork that came from humans and said, this is what I want to show you. It's not, I'm not just trying to make the perfect thing. I'm trying to make something that means something to me, and I hope it means something to you. And I think that, these covers and these stories are just at the heart of human art. I feel really strongly about that, and it's something that for all my issues and trials and whatever, at the end of the day, at the end of my life, whatever it is, I am going to be the happiest person ever, knowing that I had any role in bringing some of this art into the world. It's the best thing in the whole world to me.
So let me ask one thing about that. And also, there have been a bunch of people already asking about, are there going to be prints of these? And I'm just like, I don't know. I'd have to defer to the Atthis Arts powers that be to decide if there would be. But I imagine that if there were demand for cover art prints, I'm guessing that Atthis would do that, right?
We'd,
Ish.
it depends on the artist and our arrangement, but
That's true.
we could absolutely work it out in one way or another, whether we're getting the proceeds or someone else's, or in the case of the factory, they could go to support Ukrainian journalism, things like that.
Yeah.
But we can, if just make sure there's actual demand, because sometimes people are like, I need this thing, and I'm not talking about the clothing shop, but
Need this thing, and then it needs to actually happen. Oh, and also over to the folks on YouTube, just quickly, hello to Destruct Code 21. Please do not destruct in my YouTube chat. It's good to have you here as well. For those of you watching on YouTube, welcome. We're also on twitch.tv/Arvin Eleron. I will try to monitor both, but be aware if I don't respond to one quickly, I'll get to you, I promise. So let me ask one other thing too, and then we can start actually getting into the showing off of the art, which is, so what is it like working with, because I have an answer for this with graphic novels, but what's it like for you working with artists? Because as you say, it's all part of, in some ways, it's all part of one piece. But have you had a sense of what it's like to kind of get something where it does, in quotes, code properly, or it does sort of thematically represent what happens in the book? Like, what has it been like for you doing it on the visual level beyond just the print level, since you're the one doing a lot of this, like working directly with the artists?
Yeah, I think that's another advantage of the type of artists we work with and the type of press we are, and the frank conversations we can have with the artists, and the people we work with want to show that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't send them an order and say, give us classic dark fantasy, make it look like the best sellers. And and I'm not saying that's wrong, I'm not saying that, I'm saying it's not what we do. And so to me, we tell them, this is a story about this is, you'll see that when we get to you're not ready for this, it's so good, when we get to Cheryl's book, the people involved in the Saudi verse designed and illustrated the cover because they know that world. They know what is trying to be told by the story. You know, Matt Spencer, I am so grateful that he did my cover for Stormtree because he just knew it. He knew he knows, he gets, Emily the old lady, he gets it. And so it's so me. And you'll see that with these other covers as well, that they, like you said, that they code something about the story in each of them. And working with human artists is, on that level is not always easy. And I don't mean that in a bad way. But again, that's art. We're doing art. We're not doing, an assembly line. We're making art. Everything's individual. The amount when we talk about Jubilee's cover, the amount of love that Grace put into reading the passages from the book that describe that scene, understanding how flowers are represented in that kingdom, it's absolutely tied together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that I think is very, very cool. Welcome, by the way, to everybody. A lot of people have jumped in while we have been speaking, so that is great. Welcome, welcome. And yeah, I agree entirely. And it's interesting to me to see the way in which some of this, the classic, the picture is worth 1,000 words. My experience in working with Icarus was humbling, right? Because it was definitely true that a lot of that stuff was like, I'm going to construct this super and blah, 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 blah. And they're like, and the artist to be like, you mean like this picture? I'm like, well, yeah, sort of. But I do think they're tied together in the sense that there is a depth of artistic experience that you get when you have the art that is married with the work. And most of these books that we're doing here are, there's not illustration inside. It's just the cover art, and then you have the words inside. But even there, I think there is a relationship between the two of them. And so, as Classicor was saying, art that is like even an incredible, like Lord of the Rings, a world famous work, right? Bad art still makes it difficult to at least get into the hook of it. You have to think of it as an obstacle to overcome, as opposed to something which invites you in, which the best art does. And so, yeah, I'm very excited to see how this all works out, especially now that we've joined here. Destuck Code from Saudiverse here. Emily is great. Well, that's true. Emily definitely is great.
Wait,
And
the Saudiverse? Like the entire entity?
The entire entity. Apparently all of
Entire
Saudiverse,
universe
as
is
Destuck
listening.
Code has listed it. So, that's I'm going to take that as gospel because it's here in chat. So I'm just going to say that's the case, and that's the way this works. Yes, art is difficult. Yeah, well, then there's also the fact that my creative work is not, right, visual art is not my specialty. So I also deeply admire the amazing work, visual art work that people can do. All right, so it is 12:50. Emily, you want to get to revealing some things?
Yeah,
So why don't you introduce us? The first one we're doing is The Factory, yes?
that's right.
Okay.
And I want to just make a note on
Set
these
this
first.
up before we show it, yeah.
Yeah, but on these first two books, these authors are deceased. We are not going to focus on the sad elements of that today. What they wrote was for us. It was a gift. It was beautiful. It is beautiful. And I'm so excited to share this artwork, and I'm so excited to share these stories. So please know that I'm cognizant of the situation, but today we're here to celebrate. And I hope you all feel that with me. So the first book we're going to reveal, and I don't know if I'm nervous to look over on the other screen because it throws me. And I'm sorry, I'm not looking at like the chat and the other screens. I'm trying to just chat and not get overloaded. So you'll have to tell me like when it shows, or what, do I like do a magic or something? This is a book that was released in Ukraine, and it did have a cover already in the Ukrainian edition. It's The Factory. That's the English title. The Factory by Ihor Maisak. And Ihor was killed by Russia. He was a poet. He has a book of poetry that will be coming out in Ukrainian. And this book is very Atthis arts, in my opinion. I understand it. I have not read it in full because I refuse to read the mechanical translation. I want to read the human translation to fully experience it. But the book is thinky. It was after he was a combat medic in the earlier invasion, and he lost his friends in that his friends were killed. And so he wrote this book dedicated to them, and it's a story about people who build machines for happiness and then they don't use the machines, but it's full of beautiful Ukrainian imagery and gorgeous prose and really focuses on the moments of life that are happy. And so I'm excited to read it because I'm curious, you know, what that part of the message that is. Is it the machine for happiness, or is it those moments? Is it sitting out with a friend and a cup of coffee? You know, is that the machine that we need? I don't know. I'm very intrigued to read his words, and I'm very grateful to the people who supported the GoFundMe because that was not a play, that was not a joke. We needed that. I jumped in on this, and you saved me. Thank you. Um, so this cover is out in the world because it was released in the Ukrainian edition, but I did a little try to be subtle design for the English language version of it, and I'm proud of it. I think it turned out okay. So, are we doing it? Do I
Yeah.
like on
Let me just
TV? Do I
move
do
this
like
over
a thing?
there. Yeah. Yeah. No.
Well,
Now we're
being
set to
whirled.
go. I think. Let me just pull this up here. Yep. Okay. So right. So this is the cover for The Factory. Chat. Are we hyped for this moment? Let's just be clear. Are we ready? Do I see some excitement in chat? Some hype for the first cover reveal of The Factory? Are we ready? Are we set to go? Thank you also, Classicor, for that gift sub. I have no idea what the hell happened with that notification. That is not at all what something Streamlabs did something weird, but I will fix that much later tonight after the streams are over. But okay, here we go. So The Factory cover reveal coming now.
Is it on?
It is on. It is now
That way?
officially
That
on.
way.
It is the other way. That way.
That way.
There is the cover
There it is.
reveal. So you can
Out the
now
window.
see it for
Yes.
yourself.
So
So
this
talk
is
about this.
yes. So credits on this. The original art was done by Ihor, who is an artist in Ukraine. The book, the story, is by Ihor Maisak, and then the translator will be Hannah Leliv, and her name is on the cover as well. And I actually did the little design for this for the English part, not the artwork itself, but I just tried to really keep it simple and beautiful and really highlight the gorgeous design of this cover. And if you notice, the title of the original book or the original title is actually the cutout over the art. I believe it's forgive me if this isn't quite right, but I believe it's Zavod, which is factory, basically. Articles work different in
Mm-hmm.
Ukrainian. So that's the original title and the original art. And so we've added the English language over it and the translator. And I'm so grateful to be able to share this story with English language readers. I'm so grateful. And I've just, I'm not a literal afterlife person, but I feel this incredible connection to Ihor. He's a poet. His call sign was poet. And I just, you know, I hope there's a lot of feelings that go with that. So
Super cool on all levels. So yeah. And I get well. Listen, if Peter Tikos thinks the design's pretty good, that's got to count for something right there, right? Again, I love the coding of it because it feels very much like you are going to read about a factory in some context, and also the colors too. Let's be clear about that. I mean, the striking nature of the title being part of the cover is super cool, but also just the colors of it really codes super well also. And that's very, very neat. It's got a little pinch of Icarus. Yeah, I saw that a little bit at the top because he's talking about the falling characters at the top. Yes, I thought I noticed a little bit of that too, and that's also very cool. Okay, let's see. We're gonna put this here. Right. Okay. I wanted to make sure I had this
and yeah,
set for
this
the
book
next
is
cover when
not
that
a
happens.
thriller. And when most people say that, that's an insult, and it's not in this case. It's not a thriller. It's very contemplative. Basically, here was someone who was contemplating how, I believe, his human happiness in the context of losing his friends so young and so unnecessarily, and right before he was also killed. So I want to hear what he has to say about that.
Yeah.
I need it to be exciting. I want to hear it. I want to read it.
Yep. Super cool. Do you know how long it is roughly? Like how many words or not?
It's so different.
Because
The
of the translation. Yeah. Yeah.
Ukrainian translations expand. We learned this the hard way with Embroidered Worlds. Actually expand quite dramatically in English. So I'm not sure what the English word count will be,
Okay.
but it's a novel.
Okay. Very cool. No,
Not a
that's
short. It's not a novella or a short story. It's a full length novel.
actual novel. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's not a
Um,
long novel, if I recall.
okay.
But
No, I mean, listen, that is super super cool. So yes, so that and release date for this.
well, because of we did get the Ukrainian grant, so I believe I should have looked at the release dates. It's I think November
November. Okay.
because it's basically the same as Embroidered Worlds was last year, which it'll be like mid-November because we there's a very tight timeline on the grant, but we're getting started earlier this time. It's single translator. Hannah is amazing and is working on it. And we did communicate indirectly with Ihor's wife, and she wanted this cover. We would have gone either way with it, but she wanted this cover
Mm-hmm.
to be repurposed.
Mm-hmm.
So
Super
she said
cool.
that was what she wanted and appropriate. So that's what we did.
Super cool. Yeah, no, that's neat. So November, chat. You can get this. And again, if you type in exclamation point Atthis, Atthis, that will give you a link to Athis's storefront, and there are places there where you can order a bunch of their currently existing books, pre-order books that are available for pre-order, such as the concluding book of a trilogy, for example, that may be ending next month, and so on. And you can get information about this publisher, and you can also follow them on social media. They're on Blue Sky. They're on Twitter. They're on Mastodon, I believe. They're on a variety of other places. You can follow them in all those places, but definitely check that out as well. You're expecting the factory to be about 70K. Okay, cool. All right. So yeah, that's very neat. Okay, so
He had
that
to
is a
fill out the grant paperwork, so I'm
yeah,
assuming
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah. That's a good opening salvo here for the factory. Okay, so do we want to jump into the second one, which is wishing well? So and you need to I guess you want to briefly explain just that this isn't, well, it's art but not the full art, right?
yes. So this is Wishing Well by Jubilee Cho. Jubilee is no longer with us, but her story is, and it's a middle grade book. It's a fairy tale. As a young Asian American trans woman, she did not see herself. She grew up around Disneyland, and very enamored with princesses. When I first met her, I asked if I could call her princess, and she was very thrilled by that. And uh, she didn't see herself in those stories, so it's very like of that classic sort of Disney feeling, but it's modernized. It's inclusive. I'm very much a true. At the Source, we believe in all ages stories, and we also believe that adults can read stories written for young readers. This is not an all ages story. It is a story written for young middle grade readers that could be enjoyed by anyone. But it is truly a middle grade novel, and it's just so sweet and so delightful, and it's so filled with joy. Uh, you know, she was alive when we took this project on, and I spoke to her and I spoke to her about the book. So I'm doing the edits now, and I I'm just so thrilled. This will be next year. It'll be in 2025. I'm really excited to put this joy into kids' hands. I really, really am. And hopefully they'll see themselves as, maybe princess is a little on the nose, but I think that's a metaphor for be who you want to be, whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
And so Grace P. Fong is doing the art for this, and she's currently water painting it. And it's real, again, we're working with the humans. So uh, it's not quite ready, and we had no desire to rush this. So we agreed that we would show the line art because the line art's beautiful on its own. And then it'll be even more exciting when you see the watercolor painted version, which we will share out. We won't wait too long once that's done.
Grace P. Fong, guest of the Gen Con Writers Symposium, by the way, previously. So, okay. So, chat, are we hyped for the Wishing Well line art reveal?
Mhm.
We've
And so
had
this is a wrapper. It's the front. You know how we're they.
yeah.
This.
So
It's
it's
the
a large,
body.
right. So exactly. So this is a larger. It's not just the front cover. You'll see wrapping into the back cover also. So, all right, bring it. Here we go. All right. I also want to say it feels like now for something completely different because it's
Yeah,
quite
that's the
different.
point.
Okay, and 3, 2, 1, and there we are. So now you can see the line art for Wishing Well.
Yes. So again, I know most of you know this, but if you're not familiar looking at book art, on the right side is what will become the front color up front, the front cover in color. It will be colored, and then on the left will be the back with the back text, and the middle part is where the spine is. But are in love with this. I like I said, Grace really really, and actually Grace talked to Jubilee but before her death as well about what this should represent. And then we talked about what the flowers mean in this kingdom, what the wishing well means, what the fairies mean. So there is much, much intention in every detail of this, and very lovingly drawn, and just it's such joy for me to see it and to share it with you.
Yep, that's super cool. Um, it's reminding me. I can't remember what the complexity of it is reminding me of, but something it's reminding me of something. And of course, I'm also partially reminded of, fairy coloring books that my kids had when they were younger too. There's also that. But there's a really, really neat line complexity, which, yes, when you get the full colors, like it's going to be extraordinary, but just even in terms of the line detail, and that super evocative tower in the back there, that is partially overgrown. It looks like is that a large well, or is that a tower?
It's a wishing well.
It's a wishing well, obviously. Duh,
Oh,
wishing well.
and
Yeah.
a tower.
And a tower. Well, that's what I was gonna say because it's
Why
okay,
not both?
right? Because it's larger than a typical well would be, which is what I was thinking of. Yeah, super cool. Oh man. Um,
Yeah, I'm excited. I've seen no hints of the color yet. I know it's going to be good. I know it's going to be good, and there's going to be. I'll wait and talk about the color when it happens because there's some beautiful elements to it that I'm very excited about.
that is going to be neat. Okay, so I am preparing. If you want to say anything else about it, you can. I'm preparing the next one, which is going to be followed up with a reading. Also, is this next one? But if there's anything else you wanted to mention about this that people need to know, you can. Uh, it,
I just I hope people will help us share the word. It's again we're celebrating here, but there is a challenge in marketing two books, especially one to children, when you don't have authors to promote them. But I believe in these stories, both for different reasons. They're so good. They're so sweet. Well, Jubilees is so sweet. I have yet to read the full version of Ehor's, and I'm excited to. But Wishing Well is so sweet. There's and just I know I keep saying joy, but it's I think that the author struggled with joy a lot, and for her to give us this gift of something that is so just immersively filled with joy and hope and strength is really special to me. And I I know that she wanted this book to be a gift, and I view it as a gift, and I hope that other people will as well.
yeah. The Right. Big Boss talked about why is the wishing well steep? What is the artist trying to say? And Trivet said maybe the land is sunken around it. Yes. I could see that. And that was the image that I had. It's because if the land has sunk around it, regardless of the reason, it therefore is the most prominent thing, right? It's the thing that sort of catches your attention with all of this detail around the outside of it. So yeah, very, very neat. That's super cool. So yes. And again, I'm sorry to ask about a release date. Did you maybe I shouldn't
It's
do
okay.
that.
This one will, I think, I think she really wanted it to be on her birthday, so it'll be early. It'll be in spring 2025.
Spring 2025. Okay, cool. Um, right, we got that. Good. Just making sure. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So, spring 2025. All right. Okay, so that leads us now, as we merrily proceed along, to a special book. That I don't think I should say anything about. I should let you talk about it. But it's a book that has
Why
particular.
don't you want to say anything about it? You've read
Okay,
it.
well, okay, I did. So this is one of a set of books that Emily wrote. This is the book Storm Tree, and I was fortunate enough to be able to blurb one of these books. One of the things that I talked about with this book, and I think the art really carries this through, is there is a real slow and steady kind of gradual development, thoughtful development of character that happens here. Zell, who's the main character of these books, is a very interesting character to follow and to watch develop. And you are really in the mind of this person throughout the course of this work. So one of the things I like about this cover is that I think as is the case with Night Ivy and some of these other books in the series, it is reflective of the slow and careful way in which these characters are developed also. This is one of the things Emily and I had a chance to talk and have been on several panels talking about, this idea of quiet fantasy. And one of the things that I know bothers Emily is when people talk about quiet fantasy as being low stakes, and that's not the point. The argument is not that it's low stakes. The argument is that it is stuff which is like tectonic plates moving below the surface, right? So it's extremely significant, but it doesn't necessarily have fireballs and whiz bang and stuff happening on the front, though there can be some of that. But the focus is really about what is going on in terms of the internal change of the characters. And so I think that these covers reflect something of that process of sort of the development of these characters over time. And so, thoughtful character progression. But again, there's a relentlessness to it, which I mean in the best possible way, in the same way that Ivy sort of grows in this sort of relentless, trust me, having had a little bit of Ivy I had to remove from a shed around this property. I know a little bit about how difficult it is to get rid of it. But Ivy is relentless in its own way. And I think there's a certain kind of relentlessness and sort of forward momentum that is very compelling about the character here. And so that's the thing that I take from it. Is there anything else you want to add about this particular book and or cover before we reveal it, Emily?
No, that was perfect. I'll let your words stand on their own. I'm
Okay.
honored by them. I do
Okay.
want to read from it, and I do want to mention that before you show that, I guess about the cover itself, Matt Spencer is the coolest artist, the coolest person on the planet. You should look him up. His baffling cover still messes with my mind every time I see it. Hi, Matt, if you're watching this. Like just look up Matthew Spencer illustration. He's incredible. You will not regret it. And he was so sweet to do this cover for me. So are you going to show it?
I am going to show it.
I'll read.
All right, well, first we have to make sure that there's hype in chat. So, okay, chat, cover the third. Number 3.
You show Arvin Elron what E.D.E bow level hype looks like. Let's go.
Let's see. You got to wait for the moment delay for chat to hear about it. There it is. Now is okay. Hype engine on. Hi, Geister. Also welcome with a bunch of the things. See that? I don't even know what that emote is. Liveson. What the hell is that? It's just a bunch of M's along to everything else. Hit her, hit. Okay, bring it on. All right, that's the kind of hype we're looking at. Okay, so the cover of Stormtree. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Satolbo, what is up, Satolbo? I have not talked to you in a while. Satolbo, who of course was the person who did the inking and the lettering, I should say, for Icarus, and is a friend and a person who did great work on that stuff. Good to see you, Stolbo, and hi, everybody. Okay.
I do own the original of the Salamander King, which when I get my big money, I will have framed.
Yep, and back there, I have some art of the thing with the lettering over my head, so it's good stuff. Anyway, good to see you, Stolbo. All right, everybody, here we go. Stormtree, 3, 2, 1. There it is. There is the reveal of the Stormtree cover. And even the way the words and the author lettering is done has that same kind of authentic, like natural, oh man, good stuff.
Yeah, that's not a font. That's Matt wrote that.
Yeah. It's a name I've not heard in many years. It's true. Good to see you, Stolbo. So there you go. That is some awesome stuff. Very, very cool. I love it. It is indeed, it's a lightning tree. It does look like a lightning tree. That's true. You can see both branches and lightning kind of combined together. I like this a lot. So, all right. So you're going to do a bit of a reading from this as people marvel at the cover. So yeah, why don't you set that up and tell us what it's going to be?
Yes, I will set up until the reading. And I think you'll look and see if LaShawn might be on the.
I already am talking to LaShawn in the Zoom.
Sorry. Every time I even suggest that you're not completely on top of something, I regret it. So I apologize. I'm going to go read.
It's totally fine. The quick version for those in chat is we're going to have LaShawn coming in. Will be reading for hers and is in Zoom. If I bring her now, though, it's going to screw up the windows, and I don't want to do that. So I sent a message to her already, so she's good.
So I'm going to do 2 readings. The second is shorter, and I just was trying to decide between them, and I was like, sometimes you don't have to pick. So we're going to do both. And so the first is a meeting between Zell and a Spire Mage, so a very important mage at this tower, Grand Tower. Um, Slight spoiler, she ends up at Grand Tower for a while and she meets the Spire Mage and she had heard a lot of things about this tower, that it was, very like pompous and unwelcoming. And when she gets there, she realizes that grand magic is not about being more powerful or larger. It's about understanding all the layers of the forest, that the sapling is as important as the trees protecting it, and that it's not an arrogance or an ego, but it's an understanding of wholeness. And so here she's meeting for the first time in private with this person that she really quite admires. Um, and her first comment is in reference to someone in the tower that she knows has been turned to ill intent or is working against, good things, against the mage sphere. I have a lot of language in my book. Um, so I'm just going to jump into it. So this is Zell talking to Spire Mage Sandaba. And this is from Chapter 2, Trust and Water. Sorry, my voice is like cracking a little because I've been doing the audiobook and it's a little messed up, so you'll be all right. So, to state the obvious concern, I don't think the Grand Mage is you. He pointed, but without amusement. Excellent intuition, though it worries me also. If we are truly in a time when mages are turning, your trust puts you at risk, as it sounds like it did at the Lunesta estate. So tell me nothing about your companion, or hints of their statements or magic. What did you do? The rest is as I said. They wanted to keep me as a locator, they called it, for the dragons. I had the evidence I needed to convince me they really were behind this, and I wanted out. I fought the mage who had me tethered and knew it would have to be convincing. So I turned to the magic for the first time, and in the shock of it, bolted out and traveled quickly away. I did break the window. Zell kind of wanted to be proud of that, but she also did think about the ethics of the spell she'd cast, did still think about her lack of total surety she was even going to fit through that frame. It didn't feel nice to think about. Are you coping with all that? San's voice was kindly. Zell nodded. Why is everyone always concerned about my trust? She felt like a child saying it, but if San, was a bit of an extremely cool mentor to her, maybe this was the place for that conversation. A conversation she didn't want to have with her parents, her friends, anyone else. He smiled a bit sadly. Because we are questioning ourselves, Eleanor. How you've been through quite a bit lately, and yet you hold to it more steadfastly than ever, while the rest of us have learned the hard way that trust hurts. Instead of a wise reaction of contemplation, Zell felt her mind oddly blank. Trust was necessary, she tried to explain it. Without trust, I don't have a handhold. Without a handhold, I might fall. She'd been about to add she didn't know what that meant, didn't know why she'd said it. What piece of her mind already believed that to be true? I don't want to stop trusting, she managed to say. I don't want you to either, he said, though there was hesitation to it. He seemed to be working through something himself, so Zell sipped the water and took in what, especially from this height, was an absolutely stunning view. Is that the sea? She heard herself asking. I've never seen the sea. He gazed out with her at what felt like a mountain range of treetops. Not that way, but you can see it from here. There. That triangle of deeper color. That is the sea. Spire Mage Beleg used to have this office. It is rare for a Spire Mage to move without an ascension. The offices are equal. You take the space and make it your own. But this is the only office with an unaided view of the sea, however small. Beleg knew I would treasure that, and so he moved. That was very nice of him, Zell said, gazing out at the little patch of water. She loved her day garden, but she would never have a view of. She loved her day garden, but she would never have a view. I can't even read this. This is a personal sentence. I can't get it out of my mouth. She loved her day garden, but she would never have a view of water. San chuckled. I know how he comes across, but his secret is the softest heart of us all. San took a drink. And now you have seen the sea. And then, another day, you can visit it, which brings us back to you, your caution, your goals. Again, he winced oddly. When she was young, Zell used to imagine that Spire Mages grew their unfeeling, unreacting expressions through years of training and change, like the weight of their roles pulled away diversions of joy. That didn't even make sense to say, to think, but something like that. Now she was starting to see. The Spire Mages were among the most emotional, the most affected hue that she had met. How heavy must that mask be? Was it truly necessary? Would, by the nature of... Our adherence to a single prong of magic teaches us the value of focus. The seriousness of his tone drew Zell immediately away from whatever she'd been thinking. And surely, specialty is necessary for expertise. But we absorb this foundation that stability is in carrying one thing and carrying it well. When one is juggling, they are unstable. They are overextended. Something might drop. And a mage, a spire mage, holds too much weight to let something drop. They say. He quickly and perhaps subconsciously added. Zell wasn't sure where this was coming from. She didn't think he'd brought her here for a lecture on her not pledging. But they'd barely discussed the Lunests, so what if... Take a quick drink of water. The mage sphere exists on a state of steadiness. I don't need to tell you that. To trust as you do also requires a state we don't quite have a word for. The ability to trust deeply, meaning, he paused, pointedly, to love deeply, lowers the wall of caution, eases the strain of vigilance, amplifies the radiance of spirit. But then, what must also be carried is a basket of tools and the willingness to use them. Fortitude, agility, first aid. The willingness to accept the possibility of profound pain in exchange for the ecstasy of profound connection. To carry all this is not stability, but it is power. What I consider might be a higher power, power unbound by the limitations of our structures. This terrifies a grand mage. Arc Tower bends the closest to such a thing, and I sometimes think because of that they are the most guarded against it. Yes, Arc will change, but always within the structure. Change the structure when needed, but always with it. This was way more than Zell was able to process. She felt a bit like she was jumping at catching leaves to remember what it was he'd said, and ended up with, trust brings instability. Grand is scared of that, and Arc protects against it. Trust is love? This was, of course, an inadequate summary, but she hoped it was enough to parse through and reconstruct later, and so she repeated it to herself. When she took a breath, Sand was watching her. He leaned in, and Zell tried very hard not to watch the gorgeousness of his cleavage as it squished gently. I will tell you another secret, he said, in addition to Beleg's soft heart. He laughed a bit mirthfully. Grand mages find archmages unsettling. Not out loud, never out loud. But as a bit of a free thinker myself, it's something I've noticed. Yes, all mages exist on stability, but Grand especially. Stability is essential. Even our spire, with a gathering level open to the winds, is possible because it is in a space so stable, so permanent, so protected by our own magic that no harm could ever come to one within it. He leaned back. Then, Zell said, working through this while navigating the increased spin of her mind, is it a false wind? She cringed, though not certain if it was because she might have just blorbed out something unforgivably offensive, or because it sort of sounded like a fart joke. Sand breathed in sharply. What I am hoping you will hear from this is Grand is a place of stability. Growth, not stagnation, but still, stability. This is not Arc Tower. Yet Grand Tower has given you trust, real trust. Understanding that, and you providing every stability you can, including staying, will be critical to your continued welcome here. He turned toward her, eyes flaring. This is not a threat. It is a reality that I am exposing to a mage that for all our talk of Alicia is very, very much an archmage. She felt her face twitch. Thank you. I don't totally understand yet, but I'll work on it. Thank you. Quite true on the understanding. She was busy keeping up with herself, let alone parsing the ways of Grand. So, he added, I'm going to get you into a lab. Not under my name, but I'll make it happen. One suited to your knowledge that will offer unique perspectives of our region, and we'll see what you do from there. She had no idea what that was supposed to mean, but she knew how much trust this mage was putting in her, right after she said she trusted him, and, oh. May I offer you a pledge of some kind? A statement of my own stability? That I won't lie to you, that I won't betray you or Grand Tower? For a second, she'd worried he'd cast some sort of freezing spell. Again, that wasn't a thing, she hoped not. He was just sitting real still. Then he broke into a tilted, sly, broad but sincere-looking smile. A water toast? She didn't know what that was, but it sounded gross. Then he raised his glass. It's something from my home in Charm Region. When finery is magic, simplicity is power. To toast with glasses of water is a toast of sincerity. He held up the glass, the liquid within it clear. Transparency. A toast of fine wine is for diplomats, lovers, and thieves. A toast of water is more. Seeing her confusion, he nodded. For all the structure of Grand Tower and Grand Region, there is one place I think we might be ahead. We see relationships in a greater context, in that we do not try to label all the facets of closeness. It would be like labeling all the angles of light in the forest, when you could instead let them warm you. So, if you consent to my water toast, it offers a relationship. It offers honesty. What about trust? Sandoval shook his head. Don't archmage me out of this. Zell laughed. She just liked him, and raised her glass. To our relationship. To our relationship, he said, and their glasses clinked before each took a small drink. Unlike Zell, I don't want to be nervous, but I can't help it. It's called anxiety disorders. They're great. So this is a short scene, but I thought, like, you guys would want some dragon talk. Right? Dragon talk? Yes? Okay. So this is a short scene of Zell talking to her friend Thunder, who is a dragon. And this is from chapter 3, called Taking. Oh, and they'd just gone through a whole thing of agreeing that Thunder was going to communicate via her mind, and they've been working that out because it's been complicated, you know, mage and dragon stuff. You'll have to read the books. And the next thing she saw wasn't real at all, nor could she even see it. It was the touch of colors, the concept of treat, the impatience of rest, and the distinct concept of counting, loud counting, nothing she could track but just follow. 76, she said aloud, coughing and sputtering. The sensation was loud almost as a toddler stating their age with a vehement and a half, with some additional emphasis after that. Oh, you're 76 years old? So much for turning 30. Thunder looked as pleased as she did offended. Another tilt. Well, this was going to stop soon, but she, still not caught for breath, tapped. Again. Just that last feeling again, the punctuation. 1. Zell lurched a bit, waving her hands frantically. Ash Thun, give me a second. 76 was right, but also 1? 1 year? Thunder nodded excitedly. Well, so we met a year ago? So are you 77? This made the dragon spout a burst of flame, to which Zell threw out a quick travel shield. Thunder! The idea of being 77 was deeply offensive, but the question about being 76 had certainly gone poorly also. 76 and 1? Zell mused. Thunder ran around her in circles, stomping in what she recognized as happiness. Is that your age? 76 and 1? She considered this. 76 years when you met me, and then a year since? Yes. He's not saying yes, it's clearly, like, indicating yes. Okay, got it. Well, I'm 30 as Hugh say it, and then I suppose 29 and 1 as dragons say it. At this, Thunder seemed slightly less pleased, but gave no indication this was inaccurate. And Zell was done with this for now. Her fingers felt like curd casings, as Nafus would say it, which she just realized sounded gross, but also reminded her. Oh yeah, I meant to ask you, do my messages to you strain you at all? Thunder shrugged, the dismissiveness of the no actually irritating. Fantastic. Then I won't stress. However, this is wearing on me. I want to go find the others and sit down a while. Zell was also worried about the look of her only visiting with Thunder. She glanced at him sharply. We are friends. I'm here to see you. But it doesn't help us if they don't get used to me, learn to trust me. With dramatic swagger, Thunder lowered himself and nearly dragged off toward where several purrs were lounging around a series of fires, and food bowls Zell had previously seen chipped into the stone. Wait, one more thing first. If it's okay with you. Do you have the concept of a birthday? When you were born? Tilt. Tap. A rush of cold hit Zell, and Thunder disconnected as if there were no more to say. Zell sat now shivering, even though it was quite temperate here on a lovely day of summer, just holding on a little while longer here in the lower mountains. A day in the winter, or born generally in winter without a day attached? Thunder clicked down 2 talons. Born in winter. Hey, me too. Thunder seemed thrilled to hear this. And this time, without the dramatic pout, Thunder, 76 and 1 winter-born, walked off next to Zell, 30 on the penultimate day of the year, toward where several dragons sat, passing a few meanderers on the way. That is my reading.
Yay!
Red. Thank
Good
you.
stuff. Very good stuff. Yes, I was listening and smiling as I remembered having read those things myself when I first came across them in the book. Um, Good stuff. So that is from Stormtree. And do you want to talk about like when those things, and then we're going to bring in LaShawn next. Do you want to
Yeah.
talk about when those books, like, okay, some of them are already out. Like, basically talk about the
Yeah.
series, which
So
books are out and which are coming.
Night Ivy is the first book,
Right.
and then Ink Bloom is the second book.
Yep.
Stormtree will be the third book. It'll be out, I believe, like October.
October. Okay.
Uh, I'm hoping that I'm able to do that. And then on Greg's advice, I'm going to create I talk about this in the intro and I make about music analogies and such, but there's going to be like a 5-book story arc because I'm going to keep writing in this world as long as I can. So this will be the middle book and kind of the first story arc about, well, I don't want to, you'll have to read it to find out the exciting and riveting plot elements, but
That's right. And these are not super, none of these are super long books either. So they're really, they are, I don't remember exactly how long Stormtree is.
the
Like,
first 3 are the exact 3 lengths of your first 3 books, I think 80, and 100-ish.
I guess that's true. Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
They, yeah. I wonder if I'm thinking about it because they feel, I don't know, they felt shorter in
Go
some
with that.
ways. Yeah.
Oh, shorter. Oh, I
Yeah,
thought you were
no,
going to say
not longer.
felt
No,
like
they
an
felt no,
eternal reading.
they felt shorter. So that's what I was thinking of. Huh. Anyway, super cool. Thank you, Emily. Good stuff. So
Thanks to everyone for listening. There's nothing. I love my stories and I love to share them with you, and I mean that more sincerely than I can mean anything. So thank you for listening,
and
and I'm excited to hear other people read now too.
that's right. And in fact, I want to bring in now LaShawn. So you're going to see some window weirdness for a moment, chat, while I get this ready. I've got everything ready that I can without messing up Zoom. And then we're going to be hearing from LaShawn, who's going to read, I believe, from the story that is appearing in the Interdimensions Gen Con Writers Symposium Mythology. So I'm going to bring in LaShawn now, and I know LaShawn's been also listening in chat as well. So I'm going to bring in LaShawn, and then I will capture windows appropriately. Yep. So for a moment, everyone's like, what's going on? What's going? Okay. There we go. All right. So hi, LaShawn. No one can see you yet. So bear with me just a second whilst I get all of that prepared. Okay. Now Emily is recaptured there. Captured in the broadest sense of video, of course. Let's not, right. And then I'm going to put this down below. Okay. And I'm going to do this. Thank goodness, by the way, for studio mode. It allows me to do all of this stuff so that you don't see most of it. You're just like, wait, what's going on with this? But you will see in just a minute, chat, everything will be fixed, and you will see the fully operational battle station known as this reading. All right, hold on a second. Then we could put like that, and then we put this back like this. And there we go. Okay. And I just realized I have to remove, right, I want to remove it because I don't want to show the cover immediately. I want the person to be able to talk first. So, okay, like that. Okay. I'm sure everyone is really fascinated hearing me talk to myself as I do this. This is like super riveting stream work here. Okay. And then we put this like this. Okay, here we go. Now I have got everybody all set. And now it is my pleasure to introduce, as you're going to see me vanish, and I'm going to be replaced by this person I'm about to introduce now. And it is LaShawn M. Wanak who is here with us. LaShawn, it is good to see you. There's that black screen again, chat. Everyone's like, wait, what's going on? You're going to see a cover in just a minute. So I'm going to let LaShawn, first of all, welcome, LaShawn. I'm going to let LaShawn introduce herself briefly, and then if she and Emily want to chat for a moment, that's fine. And then we're going to reveal the cover of Interdimensions, and LaShawn will read from her story. So hi, LaShawn. For those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, hi, I'm glad to be here. My name is LaShawn M. Wanak. I am a short fiction writer. I've written short stories, poetry. I do write longer stuff. I just haven't sold them yet. But that's in the works. But in the meantime, I've written short fiction. I've written essays. I've written poetry, and I've even written a house. I was the lead writer for the art immersive group Meow Wolf. So I wrote their story for their art installation in Grapevine, Texas, called The Real Unreal. I am also, among other things, I am also the editor of the Hugo nominated magazine, Giganotosaurus. We publish one short story between 5,000 and 25,000 words a month. So yes, we just got that Hugo nom this year. So I'm very excited about that.
Huzzah. Okay, and I am also just trying to make it because your awesome outfit is making it so I can't see your name. So I am fixing that on my end. So
Okay.
apologies, chat, as I get some colors figured out here just quickly. So okay, let's see. That's okay. Now we can see that. See, that actually works. Okay.
Perfect.
Lovely. All right. So we're going to reveal this, and unless Emily, sorry, I shouldn't assume. Emily, you have any comments about what has just been said? Anything about LaShawn you want to note? You don't have to.
I
Just
Oh, well, obviously I think LaShawn is amazing in all ways, but I would like to hear if LaShawn's willing to talk a minute just about her involvement with the anthology. I mean, I could talk, but I've been talking, so it's such a thrill, I think, to everybody involved that this book is coming back. I hope it continues, and I'm excited to read these stories. So, LaShawn, do you want to speak quickly to the book or anything you want to say really about it?
Okay. Yeah. So the book we're talking about is the Gen Con Writer Symposium Anthology. So these are authors who are at the Writer Symposium that will be taking place at Gen Con this August. So Toya Finley is the editor, and she was the one who collected all the stories, and mine's one of them. So yeah, that'll be fun. And I could talk more about the story, but I figure we'll wait a little bit, after we do the cover reveal.
sounds good. So we are going to reveal this cover. So chat, as I have been saying all along, this is I think the fourth cover I believe that we are revealing today. So are you ready for the reveal of the Interdimensions cover? And actually, Emily, I should know this, the artist.
Yeah, it's Alex Stefan, who I believe is local to Indianapolis and has used to be one of Maurice's students. I don't know how long ago, so I don't know if this was, yesterday or 50 years ago, but um, I just made Maurice like 100. But anyway, yes, so we're really pleased. And for those that don't know the connection, several of us, all of us here have been involved with Gen Con and Gen Con Writers Symposium for a long time, and it's very special to us. Um, a little fun fact you might not know is that this year the company that's actually contracting with Gen Con is called Lace Leaf Writers, and it's actually owned by Ballsteg, by Chris Bell. And so the press publishing the book worked out this way is owned by me, which is Atthis Arts. So the Bells are involved in the Gen Con Writers Symposium officially. Um, and so we're just thrilled that we have this wonderful art from Alex Stefan and all these wonderful writers. And, you couldn't ask for a better editor than Toya Kristen Finley. We're thrilled with all of it, and we hope you enjoy.
Toya Kristen Finley, member of long standing on this channel as well, of course. Okay, chat, hype. Do we have some hype ready for the reveal of the Interdimensions cover? Do we have some hype? The power of hype compels you. Do we have hype for the readiness of this? Okay. Well, it was funny because Ballstick was responding to another conversation, but I was like, hype, and Ballstick's like, hee, okay, maybe. Um, that's more of a, okay, drum roll. So here we go. And all right, the Interdimensions cover in 3, 2, 1. And there we are. Yet again, another different kind of feeling cover. But and I have to say that this cover has definitely grown on me too. I actually really like the spiral of increasingly smaller, illustrations as you move sort of into the spiral, reflecting lots of different aspects of the work. And so we have the golden ratio. See, Stelvo? I knew we'd have some stuff there. But anyway, very cool stuff that we see reflected in the Interdimensions cover. So, all right, I'm going to have a story in this, by the way, and LaShawn will as well. LaShawn, do you want to talk a little bit about your story for this, and then feel free to launch into your reading from there?
Sure, yeah. So I So when I wrote this story, it was actually a while back. And this story was actually, I, it was a writing exercise because I wanted to see if I could write a story with just dialogue. Um, and for some reason, also, I wrote about witches because apparently that's my thing. I'm just now realizing that. So the story is called The Grandmother Tale, and it's a story about between a older and a younger woman, and it's also a story within a story, so to speak. So yeah, so I thought I read. It's a short story, so I don't know if I have time to read all of it, but I could read about as much as I can.
Okay. Yeah, we
So,
have about 20 minutes for it.
oh,
So, yeah.
okay. I think actually I will be able to read all of it. So we'll see what happens.
Awesome.
Okay. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and read. And yeah, like I said, this is all dialogue. So I may have to do a little bit of role play. So but luckily there's only like two speakers. So yeah. So we'll start. The Grandmother Tale. Here, child, tell me a story. The only ones I know are from you. Then tell me one of those. How about the three witches? That's my favorite one from you. Hmm, were they beautiful witches? Oh, yes, grandmother. They were the most beautiful and deadliest of witches. People would pass by them and fall under their spell without even realizing. No one was immune to their charms. Men, women, anyone. The witches were that dangerous. Describe them for me. The oldest had skin like pure honey. The birds in the trees would often peck each other to death so their voices wouldn't compete with hers. She kept her feet warm in a brazier lit from the coals of cremated sailors. She also ate chicken hearts like candy. Mm. And the second born? The second born had eyes white as alabaster, but she bewitched everyone into thinking they were chocolate brown. Visitors would come from far and wide to gaze into her wide set eyes until their bodies turned to stone. She also had a tongue that could whip the stubbornest child bloody, and when she walked, the pavement cracked beneath her heels. And what about the youngest? The youngest? Hmm, I'd say she was the most dangerous of all the three. Is that so? Why? Because she was normal. The third witch lived on top of a skyscraper, set in a city jammed with thousands of people. Every morning, she made herself toast and jam and stood in front of the television watching the morning news. Always, always she cried because she would see so much misery and death taking place. But being the youngest witch, she couldn't do anything about it. You see, she had very little power. Mm, that doesn't make much of a witch. No, it doesn't. Now, hush, let me tell the story. The youngest witch couldn't make men beg for one sultry, groin lengthening gaze. She couldn't make women tremble and clench their thighs from the purred whisper of her lips. She had a plain beauty, a fresh daisy beauty. One glance and she could easily be forgotten. It didn't bother her all that much. She liked being anonymous. She worked as a receptionist at a health club down the street from her apartment. She scanned IDs, filed her nails, and scoped out the joggers panting on treadmills. Her boss showed off his new heart tattoo on his perfectly sculpted biceps, and she nodded in appreciation. She bought the same ham and Swiss rice sandwich for lunch at the corner deli. When her shift was over, she returned to her remote skyscraper apartment. She watched the news as she dressed all in black, her only testament to her lineage. Then, shedding tears, she'd go out to the clubs. She never paid a cover charge because bouncers always forgot to charge her. She never danced, never stuck up a conversation. She sat at the darkest corner table with her glass of cream stout, so bitter and so sweet, and ogled the bodies on the dance floor. No one came over to ask her to dance. No one pressed against her or asked if she had plans for the rest of the night. At promptly 9 o'clock, she returned to her apartment, wiped off her makeup, and darned her clothes by the television's fluorescent flicker. When the news stories came on, she would weep and weep and weep, and then fall asleep on the couch. And yet, she treasured her tears. Her softness for the city was an indulgence. Despite the harm the citizens did to each other, the youngest witch savored her own tiny contribution that kept the city running without fail. Thus, the next day, she'd get up and do the same thing, and the next, and the next. All right, I get it. Move to the next part. Are you sure? I always liked that part. The witch may not have been interacting with anyone, but she was happy. Child. Fine. You're so impatient. One night, the witch was startled from her sleep by an earth-shattering explosion that shook the apartment around her. She opened her curtains and was shocked to see her city laid waste. Fires raging everywhere, buildings toppled over, bodies in the street, that sort of thing. What happened? Some war. It crept up on the city's denizens as they slept. The witch put on her clothes and stepped out into the broken streets. She had only wandered a half block before the building that held her apartment blew up. Survivors streamed around her, screaming or meandered in the same silent shock as she. At some point, her foot struck a mangled corpse. She looked down and realized in her trance-like state, her feet had unconsciously traced the route to her health club. The body was burnt and missing both legs, but she recognized the heart tattoo on her boss's torn bicep. She realized at that moment that she no longer had a job anymore or a home. So she decided to go to her sisters. To ask for help? Maybe, I don't know. You never really told me why. Perhaps the devastation of the city mirrored the devastation in her heart, and she wanted to tell someone, anyone, to share the burden. Not likely. For 3 days and nights, the witch walked without stopping to eat or drink, indistinguishable from the other glassy-eyed survivors trekking out of the city. On the fourth day, she veered from the road and went into the hills alone. She walked until she came to the cave's entrance where her sisters dwelled. She went up to the gaping entrance and called their true names, her voice raw from the fires and dust. After a long time, they shuffled in gauzy robes to stare at the ruined city. Not our doing, they said to her. The youngest sister understood that. There, in the backdrop of the smoke rising from the numerous fires, she told her sisters about the city. She talked about the morning hours, the cars clogging the freeways and on-ramps. She told them about the children running to school, The cafes and their fresh, warm bagels, the hundreds of thousands of styrofoam cups containing fresh, fragrant coffee. She told them about the streams of commuters at lunch, the bite of the perfect ham and switch sandwich on rye, the pounding feet running nowhere on treadmills, and how the musky sweat of those who exercise matched the same sweat rolling down bodies gyrating on a dance floor. She told of bums raising their hands for coins, of cops putting tickets on windshields, of teenagers skateboarding, friends and couples arguing, laughing, breaking up, kissing. She told of herself breezing through it all, unseen, untouched, and yet loving it all. The older sisters listened dutifully, and when the youngest sister's story faltered into exhausted silence, they looked at each other and shrugged. Why should we care? There are other cities. Quit bothering us. Then they went back into their cave, leaving behind only a trace of floral perfume. Well, that was rude of them. Was it though? When you told me this, you always laughed at that part. Did I? I guess I did. I've always found it hilarious that they turned their backs on her. I take it though that she didn't. I can see her now, standing there, fists clenched in fury. What did she do after that? Mm, something dangerous. How so? She went back to the city. First, she started with the hospitals because that's where most of the survivors congregated. Then she tackled the sewers, the alleys, fallout shelters, basements. She knelt down beside hundreds of pallets and whispered into orphaned ears. She slipped into crowded waiting rooms and orated on top of tables. She cupped her hands around her mouth and shouted from crumbling walls. Her message was the same, no matter who she told. There are witches living outside of the city, and they did nothing to stop its destruction. Her words spread like a virus from ear to mouth and back to waiting ear. Soon, the phrase took on a life of its own as people whispered to one another, there are witches living outside of the city, and they did nothing to stop its destruction. A few called for reason. The witches owed the city nothing. Why should they be held responsible? Then came the lootings, the food shortages, the rapes and the assaults, the arson. Rumors began to spread, anger carefully stoked, most of them stemming from the witches' former lovers. Witches live outside of the city, they complained to the former nail technicians, baristas, and truck drivers, now gathering bricks to heat for warmth. Witches that hold great power, who could do the unthinkable, the unimaginable. Yet, with all their power, they did nothing to protect the city. They spread their grievances throughout the broken city, refusing to help or clean up, only airing out their resentments, sinking them deep into listening ears. The witches did nothing. We can't let them get away with that. The youngest witch incited it all. She had spent years in the city, watching its citizens, learning its language, drinking its stout. She knew the last nasty looks the citizens gave to one another, the rude gestures they made with their fingers. She could hurl insults in so many tongues. She had watched the news every night. She knew what could be born of ignorance and hate. For the first time, people began to notice her. Youngest witch no longer dressed in black, but in pure white. She pulled her hair back into a bun and doffed pince-nez glasses. As the bonfires licked the night sky, she stood on the tallest pile of broken cars, and her shadow leapt with the energy of her impassioned words. Every night she made the crowd chant, "Seize the witches! Make them pay!" That's my favorite part, you know. Yes, grandmother, I know. A year to the day the city was destroyed, the youngest witch led her new army to her sister's cave. They weren't taken by surprise. The witches knew what their youngest sister was up to. They weren't witches for nothing. The two sisters hurled their most powerful spells at the torch-wielding mob. Many fell to their deaths, ripping out their hair, their clothes, their tongues. Others collapsed and humped the dirt, crying out in pained ecstasy. But the youngest witch taught the people well. They stepped over the fallen and threw themselves forward, and as they fell, others took their place. For many nights they fought like this, but even witches tire. It wasn't long before their arms trembled and their voices grew weak. The youngest witch urged the remainder of her army forward. They overpowered the two witches, grabbed them by the hair, clapped blindfolds over their eyes, wrapped iron chains around their bodies. They dragged the witches back to the city, chained them to the remains of what used to be City Hall. There, they did so many unspeakable things. I can't even relate them to you. I could only say that the youngest witch watched it all, impassive. The only movement she displayed was the reflection of the bonfires in her eyeglasses. When the mob finished, she approached her sisters, gestured to the guards to force their heads up. She leaned down to peer into their ravaged faces. "Just because I don't have power," she hissed, "doesn't mean I can't use it." She gave the signal for the mob to kill them. What a gruesome way to die. Yes, certainly is. I would never want to die like that. Promise me I won't die like that. I promise. Shall I finish the story? When the deed was over, the youngest witch, the only witch now, turned to thank the mob, ready to instruct them into the hard task of rebuilding the city. Instead, she met hardened gazes, the striking of steel pipes on concrete, the smack of wooden bats against fleshy palms. Desperate, she searched for someone, anyone, who would speak up in her defense, but no one did. The blood of her sister still ran warm under her feet. "What are you doing?" I'm the one who leads you. If it wasn't for me, you'd be lost, cowering by your fires, turning on each other like starving, desperate rats. You can't do this. But they could, and they did. Do you know why, grandmother? Because it doesn't matter if you have powers or not. In the end, a witch is a witch is a witch. So there's no need really for me to tell you what they did to her. Mm. And without her sisters, there was no one she could turn to for help. Yeah, they tortured her. They gouged out her eyes, sliced into her flesh, hours and days without end. Mm. Until she could barely think. Poor thing. Mm. And then they did the most brutal thing of all. What did they do, grandmother? They kept her alive. They didn't let her die. They chained her inside the lowest, darkest room they could find. They hooked her to machines that pumped blood, made her breathe. They forced her to tell this story over and over and over again. And when she tried to change even one word, they took another piece from her, her feet, her arms, her legs, hands, organs. But they left her heart so she could still feel. Yes, yes. So that I would never forget. And to care for you, they sought among themselves those who had the tendency to become witches. Loners, dreamers, debaters, mutes. Unaware of their witchy powers, they were uprooted from their lives and forced to become your caretakers. They corralled us into this place, forced us to feed you, care for you, call you grandmother. Because the worst thing you can do to a witch is to force them to love someone other than themselves. I'm sorry, grandmother. This is not the end I promised you. You must be so tired. I am. Will they bring another group after you leave? I don't think you need to worry about that. Here, let me get your pillow. There. Rest now. You've had enough. I don't have much time. Once things start to collapse, they'll come here to check on you. When they see that you're gone, they'll find another witch to blame. But we won't let them, my sisters and I. Witches in cities are more alike than you think, grandmother. Both can be callous, selfish, cruel, and yet your stories contain such beauty. You can't help but love them. You taught us that, grandmother. It's why we love you. Unlike you and your sisters, however, we're stronger when we work together. We're going to tell the city a new story, one that doesn't involve callous witches or murderous mobs. With our power, we'll find a way to bring back the city you once loved. And maybe, if our power is strong enough, we'll find a way to make the city love you back. So, while we're waiting here, grandmother, let me tell you a story. That's it.
Wow, it's good stuff, LaShawn. That is good stuff. So what's the name of the story again? You said it's The Grandmother's Tale?
It's called The Grandmother Tale.
The Grandmother
Yes.
Tale.
I am terrible when it comes to titling stuff. Well, I am, but usually my titles are really, really super long. But
Very, very cool stuff. And that is part of Interdimensions, which is going to be out in August, by definition, because people will be coming to Gen Con for that. Very cool stuff. We had some people asking LaShawn whether you were a voice actor in chat while this was going on. So,
oh my gosh.
So there you go. I guess your role play worked, I guess.
I guess so. Yeah. I never actually thought about it. Because but when I was a kid, I used to read stories to my sisters, and I read to them the Chronicles of Narnia. And I wound up doing a lot of the voices to keep them interested. And yeah, it's like, yeah, I never actually thought about becoming a voice actor, but it's fun to read in different voices, and maybe one day I'll look into that. But for now, I'm fine just reading stories.
You do have a lot going on as it is. Well, this was really cool. Thank you, LaShawn, very much for doing this. I think we're gonna move on to the next reading, but you'll have a chance if you come to the Writer Symposium chat, and you should all be doing that in August. If you were anywhere, within traveling distance, functional traveling distance of Indianapolis in August, you'll have a chance to meet LaShawn, and of course Emily and myself, but specifically LaShawn as the guest here, as part of this symposium. So thank you, LaShawn. Great stuff. Can we get applause, chat, for LaShawn M. Wanak? Thank you, LaShawn, so much for reading that. And yeah, we will see you soon.
Well, does LaShawn, I just want to ask, do you have anything else that you want to let
people
know
know? Oh, true. That's true, yeah.
Anything else going on?
Oh, yeah. So I'm actually going to be appearing on another virtual panel for FogCon. FogCon is going to be they moved to virtual, and they're going to be doing an editors panel on the state of short fiction. So it will be me and other editors. I should have thought further ahead and it pulled up the about it, the information about it. But if you go to FogCon, FOGCON, it will be right there on their page, and that's taking place this Thursday. At least I think it's Thursday. If you give me, there we go.
Thanks, Paul.
Yes, it's on June 20th. So that's 2 days from now. Yeah, June 20th at 6 p.m. Pacific. It's called The Changing Landscape for Short Fiction, and it's going to be me and Julio Rios, Neil Clark, David Steffen, and we're all going to have this awesome panel talking about the state of short fiction. So yeah, join us if you can.
Good stuff. Thank you, LaShawn, again, and we will see you in what is it now? 6 weeks ish, something like that, at Gen Con. Yep. Mind blown. What even is time? But thank you so much, LaShawn. And we will speak to you soon.
I really appreciate you doing this.
No problem. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Okay. So, Arvin Elleron, I have a question for you while you're resetting your screen.
Yes. Okay.
Just a personal favor, just a me thing. I was wondering if there would be any opportunities to hear a reading about an assassin today.
Well, listen, I mean, I feel like, I don't know, are assassins really a thing that people pay attention to these days? I don't even know if that's true. I suppose I could work something up. I mean, I might have something available.
I know some people were kind of worried because everyone remembers when Renegade came out, I was running in circles about it because it was the middle book. I mean, there's really no such thing as a spoiler. There's going to be a third book. And so it was like, go read it. It's so exciting. Oh my gosh, it gets in my brain. It gets in your brain too. And I was like, Renegade's best book. And I have said nothing about this third book. And some people are like reading into it. Is there a situation? I have a certain transparency when it comes to wizards, their books, their streams, I am just trying to keep my mouth shut because you must remain pure. Now, I don't know what he's going to read. And that's his choice. But you must remain pure for this third book. But don't read into it, because
Yeah, I've been waiting to see to actually see Emily unleashed when the moment comes, and then can rave about the book or rant about the book. I mean,
yeah,
who knows?
you'll have
Like
to wait
who
and find
knows? You're
out.
gonna have to
My
find out
thoughts will be expressed when it is time for my thoughts to be
when the
expressed.
time has come. Exactly. Big Boss,
Boss
it's
has
dot
read
dot
it.
dot pretty good. Says Big Boss. Well, of course, we are referring to my book Heretic, which is the final book of the Grey Assassin trilogy, which has been edited expertly by Emily Bell, and which has been is going to be published spectacularly, awesomely by Atthis Arts. And so this is the cover reveal, and I am going to read a little bit. We'll see how much time I have. I'm going to read one part that I've read before, which is the prologue to it, but I want to read a little section from a little later as well if I have time. We'll see on how the time sort
I
of
think you're
breaks
gonna
out.
have I think you're gonna have time because, and Stephen, if you're listening, I think Cheryl will be making it, but we're gonna keep minute to minute progress on where she is traveling across Africa right now. So
Okay, very very cool. So
literally.
what you're about to see, chat, is the final book. For those of you who don't know what this is about, the Grey Assassin trilogy, the pitch line for Grey Shade, which is the first book in that series, is what if Jason Bourne were trained in 15th century Rome, 15th century Venice, I beg your pardon, in the ways of sonic magic. And so the principle behind this is about a man who kills in the name of his god. He is the best of the best until he learns that what he thought he was working for and what he thought he believed in was not actually what he was working for or what he believed in. And much of what happens from there is his dealing with the aftermath of the collapse of his faith. Is it possible to build new faith out of that? And is it possible to have moments of redemption? Is it possible for someone to rise above what someone has done for the rest of their lives? And so this book is the final book in the series, and it is called Heretic. And this cover that you're about to see was done by the amazing Peter Tikos, and I hope that Peter is still in chat. Yes, I think Peter may still be here. I hope so. But in case you're interested, if you want the first two books, Grey Shade and Renegade, first two books in this series are already out. And if you type in !Grey Shade in chat, you can actually go and pick up those books right now. You can also get the audiobook of Grey Shade, which is narrated by our very own Trent Sparks, who did a spectacular job with it. And by the way, it's also available in certain places on NetGalley. So, reviews, all these things, positive reviews are still there. Oh, you're still there? Okay, great. So you're about to see Peter Tikos' cover here, and I am extremely, extremely happy with it. The first two covers in the series are really amazing, and I'm extremely pleased to be able to show this one off. And so, chat, yes, and Julie Cherneda, actually, no less than Julie Cherneda, Hall of Fame author, Canadian Hall of Fame speculative fiction author, has said, quote, "I loved this book. You will highly recommend it," said Julie. It has been blurbed by Ed Greenwood. There are upcoming blurbs from other people, some of whom I'm not at liberty to talk about, but the series has been blurbed in the past by Michael R. Underwood and Brandon O'Brien and Brad Bollier and Martha Wells and people like that. So very proud of this book, very proud of the conclusion of the trilogy. My personal friend Ed Greenwood. I guess that is kind of true. Ed is a good guy, but and this book originally, the first version of it a long time ago, came out from the Ed Greenwood group way back in the day, and then a brand new edition was done for this series. So with no further ado, chat, do we have hype for the cover reveal of Heretic? Extreme hype alert. with I don't know if that's actual asterisk or they were just sort of modified, or they were like took out language that was there. Okay, there's all the get hyped, and here we go. All right, Heretic cover.
I didn't swear.
No, it was so funny. I thought they were just gonna be like this effing extreme hype alert.
But I know that you have robots monitoring your channel. I could be like,
yeah, right.
Extreme hype for.
Here is the cover for Heretic in
me.
3, 2, 1. And there it is, the cover of Heretic, the Grey Assassin Trilogy, Book 3. I really, really love what Peter has done with this work. The extraordinary element of it. First of all, just a couple of things I want to highlight. Gray shade all throughout this has been really lovely and very much in line with what I imagined for him. And I do want to point out that for those of you who have watched the series from the beginning, the first cover has gray shade just on his own, sort of facing the camera, as it were. The second book has gray shade and chaos. That's that panther you see at the bottom right of the cover. And this third one has three characters, which is gray shade, chaos, and Rilia looking at this fountain. Now, there's obviously a little bit of a spoiler involved in where that fountain is, so I won't talk about that, except to say that that is supposed to be a representation of the Hammer of Argoth. It is the Order of Argoth that Greyshade worked for in the old days before he found out aspects of things, and you'll see what that was like. So I wanted to mention that going from one person to three was very cool for me thematically. It sort of ties into this idea of a character who learns that they can't do everything on their own, and they do need to rely on other people to help at times. So there's that. There is a color feel as well. The full cover, which I don't want to take the time to give you the sort of back cover as well, but the back cover also has little orange lights from houses, like the windows of houses, which picks up on, in the first book cover, there were orange leaves. In the second book cover, there are the lights of the camp that Greyshade and Chaos are looking down on. So I really love that feel as well. And then the color of the cover. The first one, Greyshade, was a dark blue. The next one was kind of a green and gold. And this one is more of a lavender with stars. And in each case, the moon is super prominent. And so Peter did this work, and again, Peter, like I am, just absolutely adore these covers. So again, thank you for having done that, because it just really, really flowed beautifully, and it's a cover that I feel very proud of, and seeing them all together sort of in a line is just super cool for me. And also on the spine, it looks very cool with the spine as well. Also want to make a note about the titling and the font. First of all, Emily consulted on that and was very valuable there. I also want to give Ballsteg a pop for doing the cover layout for this too, because I think that also came out beautifully. My son, when he saw this cover, was like, oh yeah, and there's the part of the R that goes down in each cover. And it's true. The R in each of the titles is there. Which dives down below that underlining part. So that was very, very cool, and I'm grateful for Chris for doing the wonderful layout, and for Emily, obviously, for the editing of the book beyond just the consultation on the art. But I think that it came out very nicely, tweaked really well. And so, Peter, thank you. This came out beautifully. And Peter also has done work for Shadowrun, and that's actually through John Helfers that I found Peter. So thank you, John, for that, because Catalyst, he's done some of the Shadowrun covers for Catalyst as well. So really, really just absolutely love this. So in accordance with that, I'm going to do a little bit of a reading from this, and I'm going to read from, this is one that Emily's heard several times, and I'm, sorry about that, but I think it makes sense to do this particular thing. And that is the prologue of Heretic. And if I have time, which, as we said, we might have, I'll read a little bit from a later section as well. So this is the beginning of the book. And I will say, I guess the only spoiler that you will know from the third book is the fact that Greyshade is still living at the end of the first two. I guess there's no way to sort of skip that, unless it's a prequel. Maybe it's a flashback in this whole thing. But otherwise, how they get to this point, obviously, is something you'll have to read the other two books to check out. But at the beginning of this book, Greyshade and Rilia, Chaos, and a young child named Karen, who is a sensate, who basically can sense the emotions of others, have come to the great city of Telesar in the nation of Silarain, trying to find out why the Order of Argoth has been doing the things that it's been doing. I'm reducing it as fast as I can without spoiling as much as I can. And so this is in the city of Telesar that this book takes place. And so this prologue is taken not from Greyshade's perspective, which is most of what the book is written in, but from the perspective of a sort of third-party omniscient narrator that you'll have a chance to hear from here. So prologue. of Book 3. And this is the opening section. And I will say, there really isn't very much spoilery about this. Well, I shouldn't say that. I guess there's a little spoilery about it, but it doesn't spoil a lot of the details, I don't think. But I totally understand Geister wanting to mute if that is the case for not finishing Book 2. So, the prologue of Heretic. 3 small fenners flew in a circle, cooing and trilling as they spiraled down from the azure sky above Telesar. None were native to the area, of course. Fenners mostly lived in warmer climates. Yet impossibly here they were, their wings tracing white streaks against the blue backdrop of the cloudless sky as they descended. Their singing was calm, peaceful, almost tranquil. Only if one were close up, and then only if they were observing every detail intently, might they notice a slight rigidity in the angle of the wings, a slight strain in the curve of the fenners' necks, a certain wild, staring quality to the eyes. Down they flew in their inexorable spiral, down toward Telesar in the center of the armor quarter, toward a building of polished white marble and ebony pillars. They circled around the building's roof and made for the open area right next to it, a section of white marble flooring and 2 large fountains set in a square, in the middle of which 2 robed figures stood waiting. One of the figures lifted a hand, and the descent accelerated, the fenners straining against the resistant air to go ever faster. In a few moments they lit upon the robed figure, each of the 3 spaced precisely over the length of the outstretched arm, where they sat motionless, almost silent except for an occasional coo. "Lovely creatures, fenners," observed the figure watching the birds on his arm. His voice was deep and sonorous, like the sound of metal vibrating after a bell has been struck, and he was dressed in robes bluer than the sky over Telesar. His face was clean-shaven and unblemished by the advance of years, with dark hair above deep blue eyes. He could have been 30 years old or 90. But his hand, exposed at the end of the blue-robed arm, was curved, clenched, as if in some mild exertion or palsy. The similarly blue-robed man, standing next to the speaker, brown hair over thin eyebrows, brown eyes, and a sandy brown goatee, nodded. "It has been years since I've seen any," he said, voice slightly higher and less resonant than his companion. "I had not expected to see any here." The blue-eyed man chuckled. "Expectation is a weakness of yours, Father Renix. It anchors you in the past." He leaned over the 3 fenners, their feathers shivering slightly. "There are many things we do not expect to see or experience. Yet we do. Eventually we come to realize the only thing we can expect is the unexpected." He glanced at Renix, the slightest suggestion of a smile playing on his lips. "But then, I suppose expectations are part of what the service needs. Rules, regulations, predictability." Renix smiled without mirth. "It is part of my charge, Eparch Kenneth. Our acolytes work best with an understanding of what truly is." "Indeed," the Eparch replied, stroking the feathers of the largest fenner sitting in the middle of the row. "Then what do we understand about our new arrival?" Renix's jaw worked slightly. "Not enough, Eparch." He took a few steps away, gazing at the fountain. "We know his name. We know he arrived in Telesar about 3 months ago, before the first snow. We know he has companions with him, though who or what they are remains uncertain. I've heard everything from cats to children to giants to dragons, but getting any real details we can confirm has been difficult." He sighed. "But that's temporary. We'll find him one way or the other." "I'm less concerned about finding him," Kanath said, eyes narrowing slightly as he leaned closer to the large fenner. "I'm more concerned with stopping him." "We'll do that too, Eparch. He hasn't appeared in any of our reports, and so wherever he is, he can't be doing much for the moment." "And what, Father Renix," Kanath said as he raised an eyebrow, "would give you that idea?" Renix blinked. "I know this city, and I know my service. We've had enemies before, and all of them have felt Argoth's hammer in the end. This gray shade will be no different." Kanath leaned back from the fenner, whose head was beginning to swivel back and forth as if the bird were looking for something, and turned to face Renix. "You're forgetting your recent history, and this person's place in it." He turned to face the fountain, the fenners shifting slightly on his arm as he moved. Corell's history, for one. The Order's High Prelate in Corell had ideas about him, Eparch, and if he could have been the High Prelate, Kenneth said, cutting Renix off, was as arrogant as he was stupid. He looked up at the darkening sky and shook his head. He moved far too quickly in Corell, with no understanding of the variables at play, putting all of his faith in his acolytes without seeking outside allies. He had no control of the political situation outside of the Order. He had no control over Greyshade. He looked at Renix, blue eyes cold and fathomless. He was a fool who deserved his fate. Even so, Telesar is not Corell, and Greyshade is one man, Eparch, Renix objected. Well, surely there's a limit to what one man can do. This one man, Kenneth replied, thwarted our efforts in Corell and ended any chance we had of controlling it for years. The Order will be lucky to run a market stand there by the time the governor has completed his purge. This one man almost single-handedly tipped the scales in the war between Callaghan and Argyn, essentially ended our influence with Argyn and weakened our authority here. And this one man, he went on, turning away again as the fenners on his arm were becoming increasingly unsteady, has eluded all your efforts to find him for the better part of 3 months since he supposedly arrived here, or even to discern what he's been up to. In short, this one-man Greyshade has done more than his fair share to hamper, undercut, and harm the Order of Argoth since he became a renegade. And now he has come here, unless I am very much mistaken, because he has decided to go after us. I am disinclined to underestimate him again. He took several slow steps forward, watching as the fenners began to shuffle and bump into each other, the one on the far right nearly falling off of his arm. I am disinclined to let him destroy any more of the Order, especially not now, not when we are so close. Do you understand? Renix nodded. I do, Eparch. Then we must find him. But if he is as skilled and dangerous as you say, it will be difficult. Begin with his allies, Kenneth said, looking at the fenners curiously as, their eyes wide and beaks opening and closing silently, they began to flap their wings, banging into each other. Find them, and you will find him. End them. Suddenly he relaxed his hand, and without a cry or call, the 3 fenners toppled off his arm and fell to the ground with a loud thump. There they lay, in a heap, motionless and staring. End them, and you'll end him, Kanath said, turning his blue-eyed gaze to his companion. Can you do this, Father Renix? Renix swallowed and bowed. As you say, Eparch, we will find them and him. We are so close, Eparch Kanath said softly, turning and walking away with Father Renix close behind. So close to the time when none of this will matter. The 2 men exited the garden of Argoth's Forge in the armor quarter of Silarain's capital city of Telesar, without a single glance back at the 3 small white birds, which would never move again. So, that is the prologue to Heretic. And let's see, what are we looking at time-wise? It's 2:26. How much time? How much time do I have? Let's see, could I... I'm just looking to see about page numbers. Okay. I think I have a section. How much time do you think we have, Emily? Do we have any word from...
I haven't heard from Cheryl, but I mean, it could be she can get into where she's arriving and be on right then, I think. So I would read the next section. And it's been brought to my attention that there's some chortling among my chat buddies. So Chris and I do have a thing with the thermostat. He turns it up and I turn it down because I'm sweaty and old. And so I was literally, it was nothing to do with the reading. I was actually like, I'm getting hot on the chat. I do not like when my glasses fog.
Oh,
And
that's
so
funny.
everybody who thought that I was like, woo, have fun. But also, Chris, could you turn it back down to where I had? Because I,
Oh my God, that's funny. I was
but
like,
you
what?
know what? I'm here to entertain the people, and that's what I do. So,
um, okay. Let's see. Um, so, okay. So I have a couple of possible thoughts here as far as what we'll read, but I'll give a little bit of chapter 1 because it's right after that, and we'll get a chance to get a sense from Grayshade's perspective. So I'll do a little more of this. So remember, this all takes place in Telesar, and the just about not all of the book. There are a couple of little interludes where it's not from this perspective, but most of them is from the perspective of Grayshade directly, as is the case with the rest of the series. So. Okay, so a little bit more. And then if you like all of this and if you're like, wow, this sounds really cool, can I suggest that you pre-order it? Because it is available for pre-order. And if you type in !Grayshade, you'll get a link to where you can buy the first 2 books and you can pre-order this final book. So, all right, a little bit more, and then we will bring in our last person and the last reading in just a bit. So, chapter 1. When I was a child, the markets of Corel always fascinated me. The sights of bustle and stir, the sounds of trade and barter, the smells of food and sweat blending into a complex tapestry of sensation as I passed by stalls with all manner of goods for sale, the merchants standing near them shouting the quality of their contents. I suppose I could have found it overwhelming, too, but for some reason there was a life in that place which energized me. And I remembered someone with me, holding my small hand in her cool, pale one, tall and gentle. No, that time is long past, and memory is treacherous. It will turn you if it wants, betray you when it can. Focus on now. Still, the excitement of the markets had never left me, and as I stood inside the door to Carver's General Goods in the middle of the Gauntlet Quarter, the eastern section of the great city of Telesar, I listened intently to the calls and responses of merchants and customers coming from Lantern Street. In here, it was much quieter. Most customers seemed to know what they wanted, and the store's owner, a burly man with a thick mustache, stood behind the counter at the back of the room with his arms crossed, staring at the people browsing his wares. But one person was not looking to buy, a young child of 10, with an earnest expression on their smooth brown face, who was making their steady way to the counter. I'm going to pause for a moment because Cheryl has just come into the waiting room, so give me 1 second just to respond there. Okay, I have just responded in the waiting room, so I'll read just a little bit more, just another page or so, and then we'll wrap from there. Excuse me, they said, their high voice clear, almost musical. The burly man's mustache twisted. Aye, he said gruffly. All the goods we've got are out there. What do you want? Well, I guess I'm not looking to buy anything, or not anything on the shelves anyway, the child said easily. I'm looking for information, actually. I ain't a guide nor a tail swapper, the man replied. Don't go bothering merchants at work. Be on your way to the Helm Quarter or the Sabadon Quarter. Some of what they'll sell you there might even be true. He chuckled without smiling. Now go on, child. It seems like you've been here a long time, the child said. I guess you know most of the people around here. Give them advice, maybe, or counsel when they need it. They already trust you enough to buy from you. Why wouldn't they trust you to give them news of the city? They smiled, but the man pursed his lips, his mustache bristling. It ain't about being trusted. It's about what I do and don't sell. I don't sell information. It's too dangerous and too expensive. He glared down at the child. I'll go tell whoever you're working for to keep you out of here before it starts trouble. Oh, I'm not working for anyone, the child responded. My name is Karen, and I don't care what your name is. Be on your way. Oh, of course, as soon as I get the information I need. It's about a religious order, actually. I'm sure you've heard of them. I don't hold a religion, a man said, turning away. Waste of time. Well, this one is pretty important. It's the Order of Argoth, and the burly man spun around, his eyes wide. The Order? His mustache twisted violently. I'll thank you to get out of my shop. Karen blinked. Well, I said get out. Don't want no trouble with any religion, especially not the Order. You can go babble in the elm quarter with the other mad ones for all I care, but don't do it in my store. Out. Karen raised an eyebrow, then nodded. I'm sorry to have distressed you, sir. I hope sales are good for you today. The man said nothing, just staring at them before Karen nodded again, turned and left. Suddenly I saw the man, gazing after Karen, exchange glances with 3 customers at the front of the store who were looking at him, then subtly but definitely nodded in the direction of the door. Immediately the 2 men and 1 woman exited, but not alone. I waited a moment for the burly man's attention to shift elsewhere, then slipped out after the 3 customers. Karen, it appeared, had attracted attention of a less than welcome kind. Okay. And later on, you find more about those peoples and about what's going on with those types.
Oh, what a tease. You made it clear that Gray Shade's about to like get up in there and they're like, oh, I guess we gotta read the book now.
Yes. I want to make sure that I'm being respectful to the next reader, but I am very proud of this book. Again, Emily did a wonderful job editing it. I'm very proud of the whole series. And we're really hoping that not only this book, but hopefully the series as a whole will get a lot of attention. As I say, I'm proud of it. I worked hard on it, and I think there's it feels like a story that fits for the time that we're in, too, to me anyway, that there's a sense of trying to have hope in a time that can feel hopeless, but I think there is a lot of hope to be found. And is it possible to redeem oneself after a lot of things, a lot of water under the bridge? Can one get over that moving forward? And so I am very excited for those books to come out. And again, I'll be doing an in-person reading at Black Rock Books. I'm wearing their shirt today. Black Rock Books in Southern Connecticut and Bridgeport, Connecticut. So if anyone is in that area, would love to see any or all of you next month for that. But also, I'm very excited to have these books released in July. So very excited for all of those. And you can pre-order them right now. And yeah, Peter, again, thank you so much. I'm proud that you are on these. Again, just wonderful, wonderful work. I'm super happy about it. And we were talking about, Peter, I don't know if you heard, we were talking about prints before. I have this image of someone at some point coming into, because Peter runs a tattoo shop, and I have this image of someone coming in and being like, can you do the Hammer of Argoth tattoo or something? Like I have this image that would be pretty slick too. But anyway, thank you, Chad, for listening to all of that. Yeah, exactly. The hammer. On the arm.
That'd be ridiculous.
So, but anyway, all right. So that is Heretic. Very happy to have that there too. Okay. So now I'm going to let in Cheryl S. Ntumy, I believe it is. I'm going to admit her in. Again, Chad, you're going to see weirdness about how the screen looks and everything while I get this last cover queued up and ready to go. So just bear with me for a second. I'm going to admit this person now. And I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to turn on that. Okay, the person is coming in shortly.
And just because I'm usually in chat, chat mama, and not everybody gets to see Greg's reaction to me other than, chat reactions. I will have to say that he and I and the press have been through a tremendous amount in many different ways over the past several years to decade. I think that that's canon. And nothing I can imagine is going to make me happier than seeing him holding those 3 books. And I cannot wait for all of you to read it as a trilogy. I could geek for an hour. I'm not going to do that because we don't have an hour. But hit me up sometime if you want to talk about like how the trilogy comes together. So much I could say. And I am so excited you're here because this next reading and this next cover are so good. You will not believe it. You'll see it and then you'll have to believe because it'll be right there.
It's going to be something else. So I'm going to disappear again. Hi, Cheryl. They can hear you, but they can't see you yet. I'm just going to quickly capture your window, and then we will reveal all in just a moment. So bear with me for just a second while I get this. While I get these windows fixed and I get myself off the screen. There we go. Okay. No, you're definitely not Gregory A. Wilson. That's some other guy. That's not you. That's me. Okay, and there we go there, and I put you up here, and there's that. And last but certainly not least, okay, that looks great. And last but certainly not least is we fix Emily's thing. Again, just riveting chat, riveting stuff right now that you're hearing as I'm talking to myself about capturing stuff.
You spent 20 minutes adjusting a little element of your lights on Thursday. I mean, people were here; they saw it. So
it's true. I
yeah,
had to get it right
it was
because
riveting, right? Right, Chad?
otherwise it looks okay. There
You're
we go.
engaged.
All right, now we are ready to go, and so it is my great pleasure to introduce, and then I will let Emily speak to this person, Cheryl S. Ntumy, who has joined us and did arrive and did make it as was predicted. Got here despite airplane flights and everything else. So Cheryl, first of all, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us. Ooh, I think I just accidentally revealed the cover. Wait, don't look at that. Don't look at that. Never mind. No one saw anything. Damn it! I knew that was going to happen once. All right, never mind. You saw nothing. You saw nothing at all. Nothing happened. That was just a tease, chat. Okay, everyone's furiously going back to look at the VOD now. So anyway, welcome, Cheryl. Sorry about that. How are you? And I will let Emily speak to you more about this. But welcome into the stream. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, welcome. And it's up to you if you want to speak. You were literally just traveling and just got in a cross-country trip, and so we're really grateful you're here. We've had some wonderful readings, and we've got to see so much art. And oh, I didn't know that was Toba. So Toba's here, and Stephen has been here, and we're just all feeling a lot of joy for art and community and reading right now. So, chat, you are in for such a treat on this. Would you like to speak a little bit to? There are some people here that are quite familiar with Sauti, and some people that have just heard me going on about it. So just speak to just briefly to Sauti and the story and the cover and the two artists, the illustrator and the designer, and then we will for the first time ever in the last 30 seconds, we will show this cover on screen.
First time.
And Chris just
all right.
finished
Well,
the interior proof 10 seconds ago, so everybody's here together. So thank you, Cheryl.
can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Hi, Gregory. Hi, Emily. And hi, everyone else. Thank you so much for having me here. Yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind day, so forgive me if my brain is slightly scrambled, as I've just arrived in the country and I'm sort of getting my bearings. Yeah, the Stoutyverse. The Stoutyverse is really just an extraordinary playground that a group of writers created. There are 10 of us all together, and we created an Afrocentric speculative fiction universe, really, just for ourselves and for others to experiment in and stay in. And the world is it revolves around sound, so it's very much based on, sort of inspired by oral traditions in African cultures. So there's no written language. Everything is based on either oral tradition, essentially, or recordings, or people communicate in those ways and not using writing. And sound is also fundamental in terms of the magical system and the science and the technology that's used in this world. So it's been quite interesting figuring out all the different aspects of that, how sound affects everything else, how it affects the religion, and how it affects the economy. And essentially what we wanted to do was to create something that would be very real, even though it's an imaginary world, but something that would feel very rooted in actual African cultures. And we all come from different countries. We have people from South Africa, people from Nigeria. I'm from Ghana. We have people from Tanzania. So representing all our different cultures coming together and creating something that felt very authentic, but also gave us a lot of freedom to be really imaginative and creative and come up with new ways of expressing things. Yeah, so I think that's more or less the background of how Atthis came to be. And since then, we've published our very first anthology, which is Mother Found, which features a host of amazing stories set on different planets in this universe. There are 5 planets altogether and 1 moon. And these planets all have very distinct characteristics, very distinct environments, um, and that affects, the people that live there, what kind of stories are told there. And so we've, tried to kind of explore all the different planets um, in the very first anthology. And if you read it, you'll get a taste of these different planets, what they're like, what the people are like, and yeah, there's plenty of room for expansion in terms of uh, what is possible in these different worlds. Um, and in terms of the art, Soba and Steven have been our go-to artists pretty much from the get-go. They're both incredible artists, and if you get to see the Sartiverse website, you'll see a lot of the art there. So you can get a sense of what they do and how they've captured, how they've brought the world to life and the different characters and the stories to life as well. So yeah, it was pretty much a no-brainer when it came to figuring out who would be great to do the cover for this book, Song for the Shadows, because I mean, um, their work is just amazing. They work very well together. They also have a really strong grasp of the universe, and I knew that they would be able to bring the character of Shadari to life in the most you know, compelling and visually arresting way. So they've done a really awesome job. Um, Soba did the illustration. So yeah, it's very much keeping it in the Sashi family sort of thing. And I'm really, really thrilled with the results, and I hope everybody else will be equally excited to see what they finished.
So excited. Yay. Yeah, it's beautiful. And there's so many layers to it. Also, Greg and I we geeked over it about I don't want to like speak for it, but just all the layers of the character and what you might expect out of the book and the world and the sun and the gold and how that relates in different ways to the story. And it's so good.
Okay. Can you hear me better now? Am I loud enough?
Yes, we can hear you better now.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, sorry, I had myself muted. I'm not muted now. So and now I am going to mute because now I don't want you to hear me. No, I do want you to hear. So all good.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to be reading from Songs for the Shadows. When you could afford to host a Sira in Duchaga, you knew you'd made it. Yet Shaddari could only think of leaving. She stood with her shoulder pressed against the wall, nursing a cup of teshi as she scanned the room around her, trying to distract from the sounds inside her. Paint-adorned bodies lounging in the Tantiti shack, a bulbous tent of lightweight metal floating far above the planet's surface. The gentle thrum of music, muted to prevent cataclysmic clashes with ambient sounds. Guests breathing deep, knowing it was safe to do so up here in the clouds. Traditionally, Sira were intended as spiritual gatherings for Chinene Rabayagi, a chance for the nomadic historians to swap and store sonic stories away from the dense, soul-sloughing air of the surface. Now the gathering served a far more secular purpose. Drink flowing until the floor was sticky with it. Hushed exchanges made under tables, a handful of oil for some illicit noise to take the edge off. The faint tang of desperation in the air, as though, despite their privilege, the partygoers were running from something, too sure of itself to give chase. Something that waited for them, knowing its time would come. Even though Shaddari had succumbed to social pressure and dressed the part in a purple abaya, collar and sleeves embroidered in silver, swirling henna designs on her fingers, it all felt so predictable. You've been here before, remember? The thought faded before Shaddari could process it, and then it was as though it had never come. All she could think of now was places she'd rather be. Her crew, on the other hand, were having the time of their lives, enjoying the respite before another long dig in the morning. Fresh from a hero's welcome on Zezefeni, after what had turned out to be the most important dig of their careers, Fafali and Kara lay on a pile of cushions surrounded by admirers, Fafali bragging and sighing. Did I mention that the sound fragments we excavated were the oldest on record, made by the first ones themselves? We got commendations from the council, even from the Sekara of the Susununya. Did I tell you it was my idea to pick that site? What can I say? The ear of the mother guided me. Shaddari tried to focus on the music and laughter, but she could still hear that other thing, the whisper which never seemed to fade, that piece of home that had trailed her across the skies, an unwelcome shadow. Sha, 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 dar, dar, her echo, and all the phantom echoes that came with it. A face flashed into her thoughts, an old woman, both familiar and foreign, with eyes so deep they made her head hurt. She locked gazes with the woman, an outcast on the Zazalam beach, just as the excavation crew left Zezefeni. Not a word had passed between them, but Shaddari had felt off-kilter ever since, as if the old woman knew something about her, as if she saw right through her. Sha, 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 dar, dar. The echo was getting louder, hungrier. She thought of the steps carved into the mountain leading to freedom. Taking a long sip of her drink, she backed towards the door, glancing at her crew to make sure they were still occupied. Roriiro and Bedshek sat closest to her exit. The only Akpa on the crew, Bedshek's scales gleamed in the artificial light as she used her bare shoulders to shield Roriiro's fake cartel tattoo from the very real cartel Sions lurking near the window. Shaddari had to admire the boy's gall. For a teenager from Ekukwe, the illicit tattoo might be a fashion statement, but for the cartels it was a mark of belonging. something to be earned, not bought off shady vendors in the seedier parts of town. It might just ruin the party if Rory got himself thrashed for theft. As Shadari reached the door, Bedcheck's gaze shifted to meet hers. The Akbar cocked her head. Sneaking out of your own party, she signed. Things to do, Shadari signed back. What do I tell the others? Tell them if they break anything, it comes out of their wages. Shadari drained her cup, set it on the floor, and slipped out. As the door closed behind her, she exhaled, making her way along the rope bridge that connected the shack to the city of Duchaga, which was built right into the side of the mountain. She grabbed one of the several sets of breathing masks hooked into the bridge and put it on as she hurried through the darkness, holding onto the rope, fierce wind whipping her abaya around her legs. Other tentity shacks floated nearby, some hooked to the mountain by rope bridges like hers, others simply hovering. She had bought hers from a Chenene merchant who had fallen on hard times, not because she needed it. Sao 3 provided accommodation for employees, but because she got a kick out of showing Duchaga groupies a good time. She'd loved the way their eyes lit up when they stood at the window of the shack, seeing their world from above for the first time. She'd reveled in their gushing gratitude, their starry-eyed adulation. More, that was all she'd wanted then. Life, but faster, bigger, up, up, up. And now all of it stifled her. The dizzying heights, the generous bonuses, even the recent commendation from the High Council, none of it enough to keep the demons at bay. Reaching the rocky ledge at the end of the swaying bridge, her hand slid off the rope and over the metal hooks and the pillars on either side of the narrow path. The shack docking post was hers for the night, for a nominal fee. Come morning, she'd pull up the rope bridge and ground the shack until the next Syrah. Come morning, she could dispense with the pretense. Come morning, there would be silence.
Wow. That is very, very good stuff, which people are currently raving about in chat. um, that is very good stuff. Is there, I'm trying to think of how to ask this question. I want to tie it together with the art if I can. I know you said, Cheryl, when you were talking about this, that the art in some way sort of reflected, sort of got what it was you were going for. I wonder if you could speak more about that. Is there a sense that you have of how this visual art sort of flows from what you're writing about there? Because I was actually, as you were reading, looking at the cover, and I was thinking about the way in which the art represents what I'm hearing. And I'm wondering if you want to talk more about that at all.
Yeah, sure. I think it's very specifically, it's reflecting a particular part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the character is underwater, and she's having, I mean, I don't want to give anything away, but she's having quite a profound experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what happened with the illustration is that Toba really sort of took what was going on in that scene and found a way to translate it into the art, so you can really see what the character is feeling, sort of a moment of intense fear, but also it's a pivotal moment. It's kind of the moment where her entire life changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like all of that comes through in that image. You can see that something really, really powerful is going on. And also just, I think he did a really amazing job of bringing her strength through as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I'm not sure I'm explaining it correctly, but
No, I think you are.
Yeah, I feel like he really captured that essence of how she's kind of a tough character. She's got a lot of defenses up and trying very hard to protect herself from the pain and messiness of life. And I felt like that really came through in that image, in just the way that he captured her. And so that was one of the most amazing things for me, just being able to look at that and feel like, wow, that's really her. That's the person that I saw in my head. And for that to be able to be available for others to see is quite a special thing. And then what Stephen did in taking the illustration and then incorporating the design elements, especially the colors,
Yeah.
the lettering. I feel like it really reflected the world at large, the universe at large.
Mm-hmm.
And it brought everything together in a way that it's kind of, I think when people read the story, they'll understand the art even more. I think it's kind of it's a symbiotic relationship really between the art and the story. And you see one and you see the other separately, and you can get them certainly, but I think when you put them together, then it's like, okay, it's a different level of appreciation. Yeah.
Oh, that's super
I'm
cool.
smiling because you said almost the same thing earlier. We were talking about that. Greg had said that about looking at the art, reading the story, and then being able to look at the cover when you've read the story and feel it on a whole different level.
Yeah.
And it's funny because as the person who is extraordinarily honored to have edited Songs for the Shadows and the Grey Assassin trilogy, they're quite different, but they have several elements that are so similar in terms of a character who, and this is going back to what you were saying, Cheryl, about the cover, a character who's had some difficulty in their youth, like Gray Shade did, and like Shadari has had, and has grown tough as they have to be, as tough as they'll always need to be. And the journey, and again, they're quite different. I'm not saying they're the same at all, but that core of learning to protect yourself through toughness, through greatness and victory and climbing. And I absolutely love what Toba did with, like you said, with Shadari's face. It's so layered, like in terms of a person that is so tough and also a human.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just in love with all this. This is so exciting. And please, like everybody, you have to read this. It's a novella. Even if you don't know if it's going to be your thing, it's gorgeous writing. It's wonderful. I really, really strongly recommend it. And we always talk about, is bias bad? Of course I'm biased. I love it.
Yeah, I mean,
about all this.
I think if you were like, listen, it's fine.
Yeah, it's all right.
You're like, Nooch, it's okay. I don't think that would quite. I have to say that S. Pembleton in chat, who I believe is Stephen, unless I'm missing something, but Stephen designed a custom typeface, a Latinized version of the Adinkra. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. Alphabet from Ghana.
Cheryl, wouldn't it? How do we say that?
Yeah.
The alphabet?
Yeah. Adinkra, yeah.
Is it
Okay.
Adinkra? Okay. From Ghana, and Cheryl is Ghanaian, and I wanted to infuse that into her visual representation of her story. I mean, that's like, again, it's stuff that I love the consistency of artistic vision that's reflected in this. And I was thinking about it with several of the people who were in chat, just to support the Saudiverse, in general, and to support this particular book about the collaborative way in which art is envisioned, even for an individual work, that people are picking up from the individual work that you've produced, Cheryl, stuff that fits within both the universe and then artistically is capturing something that you want, but also that they think is reflective of something broader. So I think that's very, very cool. And yes, the blending of the Afrocentric cultures. No, I know. I really, really am impressed with all of that. So an honor to be associated with a press that is also producing a book like this is what I would say. So very good stuff. And I guess I think we're just about at the end. So I guess I'll just ask Cheryl, is there anything else you would like to? Well, actually, first, let me ask Emily. So this book is coming out when?
November, right? Sorry, I didn't even look at the dates. He's asked me on every one, and I'm like, I don't know. This is what happens when you're working
Sometime
on
it's
like
coming out.
10 books. This fall, and I do have a date. This is ridiculous. I will look at it real quick because I have little bookmarks to everything I do. You know that. Okay, so yes, so Heretic is 30 July, and then the Gen Con anthology will be with Gen Con. I think the formal release is afterward, but it'll be at Gen Con. My book is releasing on 8 October, Stormtree, and then Cheryl's is 12 November. And then we normally wouldn't do these that close together, but it's just a timeline with the grant, and I don't think that there's any, it won't detract. Then Ehor's book, The Factory, will be the next week on the 23rd. So, and then Jubilees is next year, but
Okay.
that's the schedule for all of these.
That is the schedule for all of these books. So, with that said, Cheryl, is there anything else that you would like people to be aware of coming up for you, where they might be able to see you, hear from you next, in advance of the release of this in November?
I will be at NASFIC in July.
Awesome.
Oh, I not remember the exact dates. But yes, I will be doing a couple of panels there. And then, yeah, I mean, aside from that, there's a lot of Sautiverse stuff going on. So it would be great for people to just keep an eye out for that. We also have upcoming projects, which I can't really talk too much about. But yeah, there's Mother Sound is out. There are other stories that are coming out one by one. And all the different Sautiverse collective members have different projects as well that are ongoing. So yeah, there's a lot coming up, a lot to be excited about. And also we have a couple of stories that are nominated for the No More African Speculative Fiction Awards, which will be in August.
And
At Worldcon.
congratulations on yours. I was so excited. 'Cause that
Thank
story
you.
is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's another thing that's coming up. So if anyone is looking for more Sautiverse stories, there's plenty to go around and more to come.
Awesome. Good stuff all the way around. Thank you so much for joining us for this and making time somehow out of all, in between all your travels to make it happen. So thank you. And chat, can we get some applause and thanks for Cheryl S. Ntumy for joining us, author of Songs for the Shadows. Thank you again so much, Cheryl.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Safe travels, and bye-bye for now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So Greg, are you gonna reset me? Do we get to chat for a quick minute?
We do. Yep. I'm going to reset you in just a moment here. Let's see if I can get the. Just a second. Okay, there we go. All right, and let me just move this around so I can recapture. I know this looks all weird. Hang on, bear with me just a moment. Chat will be there in just a second as I get this all squared away. I think that's basically right. And there we go. Okay. The glory of studio mode. This would not have been possible without studio mode. It's very important. Anyway, so there we go, chat. So you have seen not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 cover reveals today. For all the work of Atthis coming up through early next year, basically. And you got to see a bunch of reveals from all of these covers. And it was a really good time. I'm really glad that we were able to do this. It was a good idea. Emily suggested this a couple of months ago, I think, about this as a possibility, and I thought it was a great idea. And so yeah, it's great to sort of be connected with these people who are a part of the mix in one way or the other with Atthis, and to be part of this sort of larger literary community that Atthis has helped create. So that's great. And it was also great to be able to feature the art of this amazing art of these cover artists and how they worked with the literature that we were reading today. So, any other, I guess, last thoughts, Emily, about stuff before I let you go and then wrap up myself?
Well, I put in the chat, and I'd just like to remind people, I know you do this all the time, that we both have Patreons. You may not know because you might be new for this event. Greg has a channel dedicated to narrative and storytelling and community, and it just is absolutely wonderful. And he has a Patreon that you can check out at Arvin Elleron on Patreon. And at the Arts, what we're doing there with ours, it's $1 a month, and we are as fast as we can with what we're getting. We're buying global fiction and posting it there. We have currently 2 of 3 parts of a really silly, in a good way, Ukrainian story by Ole Seeland. And so if you would like to, if you'd like to potentially subscribe for $1 a month, you can read those. You can read all the stories that are there now, and I will continue to find cool and interesting stories. And I guess I would just like to say on this whole theme of tying together and voice and art, and we have authors on. We have worked with artists formally, not even tangentially, with authors and artists on 6 continents in both cases, and that's been true for years actually. We are committed to how beautiful art is around this planet, and how beautiful it is when we recognize that what we are used to is just a fraction of what is out there, wherever we are. And we hope for people to really feel how there's so much sameness in the world right now. And I don't mean kin, I don't mean the good kin and kindness, not that kind. I mean franchise culture and sameness and the same thing over and over, and corporate monopoly. And it's just, we have so many elements of art that are different, There's no way that you've experienced them all, because there's too many. You couldn't, in a lifetime, you couldn't. And so we're just trying to highlight all of those, just new and beautiful, whether they don't have to be quirky, they can, which is just elements from around the world. But Atthis Arts is not random either. I mean, I think it's very clear. There's been, over the years, it's actually become a lot more clear to me what commonalities run through the works that we're publishing. Like I told you, and again, I'm not saying they're the same at all, but you have this, you have this Assassin trilogy, and then you have this book written in the Sauti world, and they're both about, the walls we create around ourselves when things are tough, and what that does to us, what that does to our communities, what that does to our power. We think we're powerful when we're tough guys, and then that's my personal story too. If it's tough, become a tougher guy, and that's not always what gets us where we need to be. It's never where it gets us where we need to be, honestly. And so I'm just thrilled to be part of this. I'm grateful to you, Greg, for hosting it and always, being there for us as a press and as a community. And yeah, if you've read some of the Atthis Arts books, but not others, I'm always very honest in telling you which way you might want to, message me or whatever. But there's always that theme of humanity that runs through all of them. There's always the theme of seeing that people are unique and beautiful and have challenges, and also that theme that Greg talks about, a lot of hope, that none of our stories are over. Even we frankly we talked about 2 deceased authors today. Their stories are not over. Their stories are not over because you're going to read them. They're not over yet. So there's always hope, there's always a tomorrow, and that's what we do as a press, and I'm just grateful. And it's fun to be on this side of the screen. Hi, chat. You know how much I love all of you. Most of you, but all of you.
Except Dragonspear, but everybody else.
Dragon is my neighbor. That's a special neighbor drag. I mean, not literally like there, but ish.
Yeah, ish. No, I get it.
Yeah. And he can vouch that it is warm on a planetary level here today. No other things. So anyway, thank you all. Oh, and Brandon. Hi, Brandon.
Hey, what's up, Brandon?
I am so grateful for all of you, and I'm trying not to ramble. So here I'm gonna bring it in. Like, I'm gonna take the ramble machine and untie it. I love art. I love our press. I love our community. You saw the GoFundMe. You've seen the Patreon. You've seen all these other efforts. You've seen what happened with Gray Shade. None of this would happen. None of it without this community, without our overlapping communities. And now we share communities. There's a whole Sauti community. There's the Arvin Elleron community. There's an Atthis Arts community. There's an E.D.E Ballot community. There's a Gen Con community and a gamers community and kindness, and never losing that every one of us is an individual, and that our art, whether we're, publishing it or whether it's for ourselves, is all necessary and it's all beautiful. And I'm grateful for every one of you and for listening to this. That's what I have to say about it.
Well, thank you, Emily. And again, also thank you for setting this up in the first place, because logistically getting it together to be able to coordinate across several continents, I know from personal experience that is not always easy to do. So thank you. It was an honor to host it. I really enjoyed it. Thank you again for your friendship and for the editing work, as I've said on my book specifically, and obviously for Atthis in general. Atthis is a great press doing great work. I know you already know that, but wanted to mention it again. So thank you. We will see you in chat and around and stuff like that, of course.
I'll be around. I heard there might be some Final Fantasy on Thursday.
there is some possible Final Fantasy VII happening as we are finally moving into the home stretch of that game. And I think I only have one more Moogle thing to do. So that's
But you're the Moo King now.
yeah, I am the
so-
Moogle King. I couldn't believe that. Oh man. Anyway, I will not go down that line. But regardless, and Rising Tide says to tell you that he hopes you do not melt in the heat. And so,
Yeah, but the problem is, Brandon, the heat for me is like anything even remotely slightly under room temperature. So
yeah, it's definitely, if you are in the area of the heat in the U.S., it is, or anywhere in the world, stay cool. But thank you, Emily. That's yeah, exactly. Thank you, Emily, so much for being here, and I
Take
will
care, everybody.
speak to you soon. Bye bye. All right, and that is going to bring an end to that as I transition over for almost the last studio mode thing I'll do today. Man, the only slip that I did was the one thing where I accidentally showed something which none of you actually saw at all, of course. Fortunately, no one saw it. But for just a moment, I brought that over because of studio mode. And anyway, but I do, again, want to thank Emily for this. And if you folks enjoyed what you saw here, can I just say that this is something which we are going to be part of. We do a lot of this sort of thing over on my channel. We do a lot of this sort of thing, of these kinds of reveals. We've done many of the Infernal Salons with Carlos Hernandez and CSE Cooney relating to their Negocios Infernales game, which is now on the release train, right, at the Kickstarters we made. It's going to be out soon. And so we've done a lot of stuff like that. We have done in the past Arvanaut Idol contests. If we can get that Patreon up high enough, we might be able to do another one of those, which is a writing competition that we've done here, a friendly writing competition, which we've done several of those. So this has been great for all of that sort of thing. And if you like that and you're like, I want to know more about a channel that does a lot of stuff with stories, hey, this is the place to go. So please do support us both on this channel and please support us on the Patreon, and please check out our YouTube. If you were over on our YouTube channel, thank you so much for having watched. Please subscribe to us over there. We have a number of shorts over there too, and those shorts are things that we are trying to spread the word about, and because those have been very successful in actually bringing more attention to that channel, also to my Gen GM's channel that I do, my YouTube channel with Zach Clay. We also release shorts on there every other day, so you can check us out there as well. And again, spread the word about that. Subscribe to us there too if you find that of interest. But most of all, relating to today, please make sure to support all of the amazing people that you saw today, both authors and artists that are part of the Atthis Arts family. It is great to be able to finally reveal that cover. I have just posted on Twitter about it. I'm going to be posting on Blue Sky as well about the reveal of this cover, and so I'm very excited for my own cover release, but it was also really fascinating to see all of the covers and to see and hear the authors talking about their relationship to the art on their work as well. That was super cool also. So thank you everybody so much for being a part of that. I'm going to wrap up now. We are going to be back on this channel on Thursday evening with more Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but I'm actually going to be over on my sister channel, the Twitch TV, GOGCOM's Twitch TV channel, twitch.tv/GOGCOM. If you want to watch some more of me playing some video game stuff, we're going to be playing some Black Geyser, which is a kind of a love letter to the old Infinity Engine, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 style games. I've been really enjoying that. I'm going to be overdoing that. And then as a reminder, if any of you are in Europe and are like, I would like to maybe meet this person face to face, you can, because I am going to, in August, be over in England in the United Kingdom. I'm going to be at Worldcon in Glasgow first, and then I'm going to be doing a live event with the newly formed actual play group called By the Dice Roll, which consists of a lot of GOG streamers and participants. We play Dungeons and Dragons twice a month over on that channel, and we're going to be doing a 5e based adventure that I wrote called Night at the Forbidden Library live at the Clapham Omnibus Theater, and that's going to be on August 17th, and I know some of you folks are going to be able to do that. And so super excited to meet those of you who are over there. I know some of you already are going to be coming over for that event. So if you were in England, would love to meet, or can travel there, would love to meet any or all of you in that environment in August. So, but that is going to do it for me for the moment on this channel. I'll be back at the top of the hour as at twitch.tv/GogCom. Thank you to all of the amazing people who made this a great stream today. If you like what you saw and heard, please follow the channel. Check out that YouTube with !ArvTube, Discord with !ArvCord. I'm glad to hear that, Classic Cord. That's awesome. !ArvCord. Twitter is !ArvTweets. Blue Sky !ArvSky. And I will see a Worldcon. That's awesome. Yes, I'm excited for that. Website for all that is arvaneleron.com. Financially, Arv Shop is the merchandise area. !ArvTreon is my Patreon, as I've talked about before. On the publishing side, you can check out my website, www.gregoryawilson.com, by the way. And subbing to the channel here, thank you for the gift sub, Classic Horror. Subbing to the channel is also something which can really help out our channel and can get you involved with the community even further. So that's a good thing as well. On the publishing side of things, Icarus, my graphic novel from Atthis Arts, if you want to see more awesome art, by the way. Library, Tales and Tomes in the Forbidden Library. That's my 5e adventure and sourcebook from Alligator Alley Entertainment. That is also doing quite well. That is a bestseller, actually, and is sold quite well, and is they're starting to run low on copies, actually, which is kind of cool. And Gray Shade, which we've talked quite a bit about today. Gray Shade and Renegade, the first 2 books in my Gray Assassin trilogy. You can get those right now at that link. You can also get the audiobook of Gray Shade by our very own Trent Sparks, narrated by our very own Trent Sparks there. And you can pre-order the final book in the Gray Assassin trilogy, Heretic, the cover for which you have just seen revealed today. That'll be out again next month in July. You can also pre-order the tabletop role-playing game of Gray Shade, being done by our very own Rising Tides here in chat, being produced by Alligator Alley Entertainment, and that also is going to be due out at the end of the year, so you can pre-order that as well. Finally, as always, BLM, Black Lives Matter, important to affirm and assert the significance and importance of Black lives. Help Now, the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention, important to reach out to others when you need help and to reach out to others when they need help as well. And Ukraine, UKRAIN, to help the people of Ukraine as they fight back against an illegal and illegitimate war with bravery and courage, and send the message we will do so for others in this situation in the future. Thank you to my wonderful mods. Thank you to Dragon Spear. Thank you to, of course, Emily the Invincible. And Emily, thank you again for setting up this event and for doing all of the stuff that we talked about today. Thank you so much. Thank you to the Rising Tides for being awesome. Thank you as well to Triffity Mats, as always. And of course, Satobo GT, who I have not seen in a while. Good to see you, Satobo. And thank you, everybody. Best mods in the business. Thank you to my Patreon supporters and subscribers. Thank you to Dragon, to Emily, to Rising Tides, Triffid, Satobo, Effect Life, Ballsteg, Classic Horror, Geister, and Live Suing. Thank you so much. Thank you as well to Big Boss, thank you to Imaginary Exponent, Jagtress Nonstop. Again, thank you to Peter Tikos. Thank you, Peter, so much for the wonderful art again. Thank you to S. Pembleton. Thank you to T-Bone Jenkins. Thank you to LaShawn for reading. Thank you to Cheryl as well for doing her reading. And thank you, everybody. Just a lot of thanks is what I'm feeling. A lot of gratitude for what was a great event today. I'll see you over at GogCom at 4 p.m. Eastern. Otherwise, I'll see you on this channel Thursday evening, and all of more of this writing stuff to come in various cons, conventions, and everything else over the next couple of months. Until next time, much love to all of you. Everyone be good to each other, and I'll see you folks soon. Bye for now.